What's up, Caprice?
Oh, how are you?
Caprice is the Most High. Alrighty. Um, my nickname for you. Okay, so we've got 10 movies to discuss tonight. We've got a chat popping off right now, saying hi back and forth to each other as always. And it is Tuesday night, and you're here, I'm here, and we're ready to go. So how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Hectic week, but I've been looking forward to this for like a month. So
Okay.
I'm
I
glad it's finally here.
hope
I'm
I don't
dying,
hope I don't
dying.
disappoint you too much. Um, the nice thing about Caprice is she's somebody who I don't feel that I have to censor myself around a lot like Nikki and Ashley. I don't
Yeah.
really feel like I have to walk on tiptoes around them or eggshells. So, even though I've got some harsh words tonight about number 10 in particular, I'm not gonna walk on eggshells around it though. I'm gonna be honest.
Yes, as we discussed. I just hope it's not what I think it is. But it's okay if it is. It's okay if it is. I understand.
I'm trying to think. You said there's two that you don't think I like. You're wondering about
There's
two. Or
there's two that I'm pretty sure you're gonna not be about, and I'm hoping that's 9 and 10 are what I think that they are.
Okay, and tell me if they are right off the bat. I got my predictions for you, and then I got my ranking, of course. And
Mhm.
yeah, we'll get into it. I'm gonna catch up with the chat if that's okay with you, and then we'll kind of run through it. I got the posters all ready to roll. Unfortunately, with Ashley, I didn't have them ready to rock and roll that night. So, but
Yeah.
right now they're all set up. They're all good to go. They look good. They're in their order and everything. So let's catch up with the chat. And then we got John Doe Juggalo here, I see. We got Tony in the chat saying good evening. Mizzy's here, second up. Says, hey, Tony. We've got Nikki in the chat saying, hello, Tony. Hope you're having a great evening. Mizzy did tell me to be nice to you tonight. I'm not even joking. He was like, you know how Caprice was in the chat saying you gave Mizzy some rough watches? He's like, I'm going to have to say something about how you're mean to her tonight or something like that. So we'll see.
That's right.
Um, so what's up, Nikki? How are you under that new channel name? We've got Mizzy saying hi, Bob and Caprice. Howdy, Holland Oates is knocking me once again. Howdy, that's my
Oh,
thing, Holland. What is Nikki's just saying hi to everybody. Hi, Caprice. Hi, Bob. We've got Holland saying hey to Nikki, and just lots of highs back and forth. We got Jeff saying good evening, everyone. Basement Blue says we got a delay. Bob is keeping me up past my bedtime. Tony, there's a movie on this list that you gave 5 stars to. Yeah,
ooh,
you gave 5 star to one of your movies on this list. My mouse keeps going toward that thumbs down button. What's up? You can give a thumbs down. I don't care. My last Caprice. Look at that.
thank
We've got Jess in the chat. I know she's a fan of one of the movies on this list. A big fan of them. There will be tears. Mizzy, how you doing? We got Adrian James in the chat. What's up, Adrian? Just saying hi to people. Holland Oates, Adrian. We got Laren in the chat saying Caprice. We've got Joe here saying hi, everyone. Glad to be finally home to watch this one. Going to be a great night. We got what's up, Joe? We got Nicholas in the chat. Joe, we were actually just talking about you backstage. All good things, though. That's
all the
that's yeah, I swear. We were talking about you behind your back, but it was all good. Just subbed, Letty. Look at that, Laren says. Marie says, good evening, all. KB says, sup, party people. Hey, Bob, glad you got my sweetheart on. What is up, KB? And I know KB is a fan of one of the movies in particular on your list. He gave 4 stars to the one I watched today, but I won't tell what it was. Joe, hope you're feeling better. Nikki says, yeah, hopefully you're feeling better, bud. We got Eli in the chat as well, and then I think I caught up with everybody else. So everybody else that's here, if I skipped your chat, I do apologize. We'll get to you later on as you comment. Everybody that is here that's not in the chat, we're not talking or anything like that. I appreciate you watching in silence. Always appreciate it. I know you're out there. You watch, people on the replay appreciate you watching as well every week. So you ready to get into number 10?
yes.
Okay. My heart's beating because I've never hated a movie this much. On your number 10, I loathe. Oh, I hated this movie. It like there's a hunger inside of me of how much I hated this movie, And I gave a standing ovation when I stood up out of my chair and clapped when one of the characters died. I hated this movie so much I can't express in words. And I'm not going to take it easy tonight. This was a rough watch. It's one of those things where, like, so when Jeff recommended Kung Pao, I hated it, but it's not for me. It's not my cup of tea. It's just, it is what it is. This movie angered me. It, like, when I finished it, I was like angry at watching it. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. Number 10 is Heaven Knows What.
Yes. Yeah, I knew it. Yeah.
Oh, and it says right here, it might be the best of its type since Requiem for a Dream. And everybody knows I don't like Requiem for a Dream or Train Spotting. And this movie gives me so much Train Spotting and Requiem for a Dream vibes. I fucking hated this movie so much.
Just remember when we talked about Trainspotting? And you were like, I fucking hated it. And I was literally sitting here going, oh shit. You hadn't watched it yet. You were like, I haven't watched this, I've only watched this and this. I was like, he hasn't seen it yet. He's gonna not like this. Just like, I was like, all right, this is already gonna be a no. Like,
yeah, no. So I gave Train Spotting 1 star. I'm giving this a half a star. Oh man, oh boy. Okay, I'll get into it. I got a lot of notes and they're not nice. Let me just say, I do apologize ahead of time. I'm going to be very mean tonight.
It's okay.
I also want to say that it's my opinion. So people in the chat, like, understand that just because I didn't like it doesn't mean you won't. Caprice obviously likes these movies. She'll give her opinion, of course. And I'm in no way, shape, or form correct about my opinion. It's just my opinion. Half star could be somebody's 5 star. So please just forgive me in a way. So, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it, of course, either. So I respect your opinion. Please respect mine. Okay. Is it cool if I give my absolute honest opinion? Is this one of your favorite movies ever? Because I'm absolutely about to rip into this movie and I'm going to try to keep it as respectful as possible, but I'm going to be completely honest if that's okay. But I also don't want to hurt your feelings if you're going to be upset. I wrote that. So, all right, here we go. I absolutely can't stand the score, and I'm not even 5 minutes in. I hate when a score or a song plays over the dialogue and you can't even hear what they're saying. And the Safdie brothers directed this, by the way, to people in the chat. Yeah. So, and I like Uncut Gems a lot. But I do notice, and I'll get into it, but how stressful they make their movies. Who the hell is this ugly ass, long-haired bitch looking dude? He should kill himself, I wrote. I fucking hated that dude so much. And I know he's like tweaked out and he's on crystal meth and heroin and all that shit. I fucking wanted that guy to die so badly throughout the whole movie. And I know that makes me a piece of shit. I know that makes me a piece of shit, but let me tell you, I'm going to spoil it really quick. When he died, I stood up out of my chair and clapped. And I was like, yes, yes. And I know it's like supposed to be really sad. That's how much I hated that guy. That's like how much I hated that fucking dude. Anyways, I think I wrote Joe needs to get a haircut in there as well. I'm 10 minutes in and I swear this score is seriously making me want to shut this shit off. Curious if they'll ever explain why that ugly douchebag looking dude from the beginning wanted her to kill herself so badly and what she did to piss him off. But damn, as it stands with no backstory, I fucking hated that dude after 5 seconds of the movie. Like, they don't give a backstory. The movie just goes and throws you right into the fire.
Yeah.
I'm like 15 minutes in and I can see that it's just going to be a very chaotic, hectic, and stressful movie. Is that all the Safdie brothers do? Uncut Gems and Good Times were very stressful too. I loved Uncut Gems and I thought Good Time was decent from what I remember. I haven't seen it in a bit. And here's this ugly ass dude, long haired dude again. I've never wanted to punch someone in the face so badly. Just watching this dude throughout the course of the movie, I wanted to punch him so badly. I might have found somebody I hate more than Danny McBride. The lead actress was one of the writers. Well, she was the original writer, and it's largely based off of her life, I read. She wrote a book about her story and hasn't really acted since 2016, it seems.
Yes.
But she was like the only bright spot. I guess I'm just not really into these anxiety, stress-inducing movies very much. It all depends. I'd have to take a look at other movies with a similar style. I liked Uncut Gems quite a bit, like I said, but this one, not so much. So between this, A Requiem for a Dream and Trainspotting, plus the other addiction movies you recommended a year ago, the one with Heath Ledger. Anyways, I'm all for showing the ugly sides of addiction. This movie does that. And I don't always need a happy ending, but damn, I'm not really into just watching an hour and a half of heroin addiction and drug use with no redemption, no attempt at redemption, no fight. These clearly aren't really my style of addiction films. So I want to see people fight back. And we're going to get into one later on that does have people fighting back. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the lead actress was really damn good, though. Ilya surviving made the oh shit, hold on. Okay, I wrote Ilya, that guy surviving made the movie worse. Fucking hate that loser. But then he ended up dying, so it worked out. I'll give a standing ovation if this long-haired bitch dies. I swear, fuck this character. What a loser, I wrote. So after he died, I stood up and clapped and said, "Fucking loser! Next time, cut your ugly ass hair." I know I'm an
Oh,
asshole, but I don't give a shit. So I wrote all this. Like I hated this movie so much. And I know Tony's probably in the chat, like, holy cow. I'm sorry,
oh,
Kate.
God.
I'm sorry, Joe. Maybe if I actually gave a shit about the characters, I would have liked this movie, but we got no development with the characters. I don't understand our lead's background. How did she get hooked? What was with her and Ilya? No background and no development. I had no care about any of the characters, and therefore I just didn't care about the movie. Maybe that's the point. It's just supposed to be anxiety inducing and very stressful, but I need someone to latch onto. I need a character to care about. I need to have a reason to be invested in the movie. To each his own, but for me, I'll pass on this.
Yes.
I still got a lot that I wrote, so I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Honestly, if it wasn't for that character Ilya, I'd probably give this piece of shit 2 stars. But damn, I hate that motherfucker. Um, I just hated this movie. I didn't like anything about it, and honestly, if this wasn't a part of a watch list, I would have shut this off in 5 minutes. But I refuse to turn movies off. I also won't fall asleep during movies. Sorry to be harsh, Caprice, but I hated it. Um, I wrote, I'll watch Basketball Diaries every time over this. That's actually a good movie with fleshed out characters. I get it though. People love the stress and anxiety of this crap. Not my style. I honestly just don't see the point in this movie. I have no interest in ever sitting down to watch this again. I'll give it 1 star because of the lead actress, and then I changed my rating to a half over the course of a week because it just bothered me so much. But damn, I hated this movie. Caprice, you're 0 for 2 in recommending addiction movies to me. I know there's a few others on this list, so here's to hoping I like those a lot more because I highly doubt anything will be below this on your list. But we're off to a terrible start. I wrote because it was the first movie, it was the second movie. And look, I'm always going to be honest, but I'm going to try and be respectful as possible, and I'm always going to allow my guests the opportunity to talk and give your thoughts. But it doesn't mean I'll change my thoughts, but I'll always hear someone out. And
Yeah.
there's still 2 big paragraphs I wrote. Hold on. Can I read them, please? Okay, I'm sorry. So I've been trying to think of other movies that are extremely stressful and revolving around teenagers or young adults. Kids comes to mind. I like Kids.
Yes.
And I really like that movie. I thought that was pretty good, but didn't love that. I like 13. I thought that was good. Bling Ring was okay. Alpha Dog, I thought that was pretty stressful movie, and that's excellent. I hated Rules of Attraction. I can't remember Spun all that much. Drugstore Cowboy was pretty good. I like this movie called 12. Probably not too many people know about that one. I didn't like London, and I did really like Project X. So those are some stressful movies that like I was trying to think of like anxiety inducing movies that could be stressful. I enjoyed or didn't enjoy. Okay, that's about all the young adult stressful anxiety inducing movies I could think of. And about half of the ones I named I liked, some I hated, but I wouldn't say I loved any of them except maybe Alpha Dog and Project X. So yeah, it's pretty safe to say these stress anxiety inducing movies are usually a miss for me more often than not, it seems. I guess it all depends on how it's made. My 1 star is generous, and then I moved it to a half. The longer the movie went on, the more I hated it. Safe to say Requiem, Trainspotting, and this are not my style. They're not. They're honestly all similar to me, which makes sense to me why I didn't like any of them. I don't just dislike them, but I hate them. I'm so close to giving a 1/2 star to this. My least favorite addiction movie I've ever seen. The closest a movie will ever get to receiving a 1/2 star from me. At least Requiem has an incredible score, I wrote. Trainspotting had nothing redeemable either outside of acting, and this had nothing redeemable either, I wrote. But surprisingly, I appreciate the style of the way it was made. Not for me, but I can appreciate it. Okay, on to the next movie. I'm done talking about the shit. And then I had one more thing. So after I simmered on this movie for a few more days, I came back and I wrote more notes, and I'm giving this a 1/2 star. I never knew I could hate something this much. I don't see how I can give this 1 star when when this bothered me as much as it did. I hated this movie with a passion. That's everything. That kicks off the night. So that's number 10. I'm sorry, Caprice.
No, don't be sorry. So, fun fact about this story and how it got on your list. So, I had just watched it. I think like 2 days before I had made your list. I had just watched it for the first time. And these type of movies usually aren't my kind of speed either. It's funny that you say that it reminded you of Kids and 13. Like, that's what went through my head when I was watching it. It's not it's very low on my list as well. Just so that we're clear. It's not one of my favorite movies either, but it is one of those movies that I wanted you to watch because I wanted your opinion on it, because I do know that you usually do like, addiction movies, but I knew that you were going to have a lot to say about this one because there is no redeemable factor to it. It does start off abruptly. You don't get a backstory. You're literally thrown into the life of this girl in the middle of all this craziness, and you have no idea what started it, what ended it, where goes where, what's left, what's right. I appreciated the story. I did like the main actress. She did write a book on this prior, which this movie is based off of, and the character, I always say his name wrong, Ela, he obviously did his job because he just ruffled your feathers like nobody's business. He did what he was supposed to do, and he did it so well that 2 days later, you're still talking about how much you fucking hated him. So he did his part, and he did it well enough for you to be like, I fucking hate this guy, because you're supposed to. You're supposed to hate him, but you don't know why. You don't know why. You know that their relationship is toxic, but you don't know if it's because of the drugs. You don't know if they're just not right for each other. You don't know if something happened to that prior. You just know that you don't like him, and you're not supposed to like him, but you don't know why. That's part of his charm. And the character that guy is actually based off of, he was actually alive still while this movie was released, and then he died of an overdose like 2 months later. So the character is actually a real person, based off of a real person. And the person saw the movie, saw his, representation, and ended up dying 2 months later.
He has a really punchable face.
Hey, the actor who played him, the funny part was he was like, people hate me. And they don't know why they hate me, but they hate me from this movie. And I've been told multiple times that people just want to beat the shit out of me for no reason. And that's during the interview. The funny thing was I was sitting there listening to it, and I'm like, but that means you did your job.
I would like to do some Matilda type of shit to him, where I swing him by his long ass hair and just throw him.
You know who he looked like? He looked like the guy from, what's that movie called? I forgot the name of the movie. Shit. James Franco did it. It was like a remake about a guy who making a movie of his life.
I know which one you're talking about.
That is talking about. He looks like that. And that's the first thing I thought about when I saw him. I was like, oh, I see that. But no, he did his job so well that you were just like, fucking hate this guy. Mm-hmm. And, I could see why do we have the spoilers things up?
No, I don't yet. Hold on. I could put them up. I just kind of spoiled it too. I was like, I hate this movie so much. But go ahead. Yeah, spoil away. I'm going to try
I was the same. Like, when he caught fire, I was kind of like, wow, like, finally, this guy's getting his due diligence. But I have to say, the scene on the highway where the girl is just in hysterics, she doesn't know what's going on. She just got kicked off the bus. She doesn't know where he's at. And just that, like, 3-minute scene of her just on the freeway, kind of just having just a mental breakdown. That, to me, it was a really powerful scene. There are a few powerful scenes in this movie. Not enough to like redeem it and give it a 5-star, 3-star, whatever it may be. But there are some very, very real scenes in this movie that to me at least felt more real than in other movies. Just maybe it was just the way it was filmed or the emotion that was put into it. I went through and I actually read quite a few reviews on the movie and people who just wanted to talk about it. And the main connector of this movie was from addicts themselves who said this is very, very real and this is very triggering, like especially for them, because if whether they were either active addicts, ex-addicts, or whatever it may be, they related to it so heavily, more than so in other movies, because it just felt so like their everyday life. So no, I'm totally okay with you bashing it. It's totally fine. It's not like it's not even in my top 50. I had just seen it and I was kind of like, because you're one of the people I talk movies with, and we've done it like multiple times where we're just up talking about movies deep into the night. And I knew you were going to have something to say specifically about this one. Whether you were going to like it, or whether you were going to like it or hate it, I didn't know, because it's one of those where, from what I'm seeing anyway, is you either love it because it feels so real, or you just absolutely hate it because of how it was put together. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. So you saying what you said is completely okay. Like, I don't mind.
Yeah, and I'm always going to be honest. I mean, it's funny because most people seem to have muted us during when I was talking about it, because if you haven't seen it, most people like to mute us, so they don't know what the hell I was saying. But it's funny now. Okay, so spoilers are off. We're done talking the movie. I'm going to catch up with the chat, but if you did mute us and you didn't hear what I had to say, you missed a whole lot of cussing and shit out of my mouth.
Yeah.
How
More
much
than I've actually ever heard.
I love number 10. Yeah, right. Nice. In other words, wow, worse than Kung Pao. I think I might like one. Hey to you all. I'm having to mute Bob's worst watch ever. Kung Pao and Kung Fu Hustle are classics. Eli says, I'll be muting as well. Want to check this one out. Holland says, Laren and I will be watching this together after dark. Apparently someone dies, Laren. Glad something beat Train Spotting so Bob can let me live it down. That got spoiled before the discussion even started. Yep, well, sort of. Yes, tonight, Holland. I think so, Eli. Laren, I had a curfew in 1 hour. Denzi, Mizzy, good day. Prince is in the chat saying, hi, this is my first time seeing you, Caprice. I've got my notebook ready. How can we make this work, Holland? I'm panicking. I think there's another couple streams tonight going on. You ready for Davey's stream at 9? Yeah, so I guess Dave's going live, I assume. Laren, we have to go back to the future, if you know what I'm saying. You betcha. Cover your ears, Tony. Yeah. Awesome people. You usually are, bud. I'm just going to put my phone number straight into the chat. I don't even fucking care. I'll follow you anywhere, Holland. I have my pen and paper ready, Laren. Is the area code 555 also, Mizzy? Because Mizzy said Laren's number is 5555555. So, that is not his number. Grant says, came in late. What's up, Grant? In other words, nothing says so. I did not get Laren. What that number, Ms. Just laughing. I'll probably like this then. Hey, Tony, did you do 2 videos for the Wind River Steelbook? Did you do your videos? Huckster, what's up, Huck? We got Huck in the chat. I said hello, my rock stars right there. Try again. Jeff line might be busy. No banner, Bob. Sorry. Bob's notes is so funny, funnily poetic. I thought Holland was going to give me the secret time to travel, but Tony, you want my number for real? Bob has it. LOL. Yep, if you want Laren's number. Before I give people's numbers out, even if it's somebody like Tony, I always ask the person first, because you never know if they want their number being given out. You know what I mean? Now discussing tab, Professor. Sorry. Greetings, Hollander. I'm so down, Holland. lot to catch up on. There was like 95 chats. I thought they might be coming after me. Yeah, Disaster Artist. That's the one. Yep.
Disaster Artist. Yes.
Tony Wazoo or whatever his name is. Wow, what an amazing weirdo. Holland said, we got hard copy blues. Vin saying, looking forward to seeing what movies get discussed tonight. Well, I started
Man,
off started off hot on that one. What's up, Vin? All right. You ready for number 9?
Yeah.
All right.
I think so.
Okay. Number 9 is gonna be, hold on. Am I missing number 9 here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I didn't get number 9 written on here. I guess I didn't put a poster up for number 9. How dare me. Uh-oh. Let me see if I can. We'll keep talking. Let me see if I can pull up a poster for it. I don't know if I was able to. I was like looking for it. So let's see if I could find a poster. I might have had a hard time finding a poster for this one. I think that was the problem, and I couldn't find one that would let me post it. So I was like, oh, I guess I can't. And then I never came back to it. But anyways, my number 9 is going to be, let me see if I can get this poster up here. Okay. It is okay, here we go. Number 9 is going to be this movie, which I don't have a title because I can't find one. Sid and Nancy is number 9. And
interesting.
okay, so Sid and Nancy is number 9. Yeah, like I said, when I was looking that up, I couldn't find a, like, because it's got to be a JPEG or whatever image, and if it doesn't fit, then it's a whole pain in the ass. But anyways, number 9, Sid and Nancy. I think I got my banners up somewhere right here. Now discussing Sid and Nancy. Let's get to my rating. I mean, okay. So honestly, another movie I had on my Google Sheets list of Criterion movies to own. And midway through the movie, I took it off my list. So as people know something about me, I'm a very big completist. And when I have a lot of Google Sheets and lists of every label and all that stuff. And I've recently, in the last couple of months, been trying to go through, and I've really been taking a lot of titles off of my lists. And I'm like, you know what? I got to get away from this completist mentality. I can't keep doing this. I'm not a completist Criterion, of course, but I had these titles on there, and usually I would keep them on there even after I hate a movie. So anyways, I took this off the list. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to buy it. I did that with Trainspotting, and I did that with another one we'll discuss later on. Anyway, so, and like I said, these movies have their fans, of course, and plenty of them. You're one of them. Tony loved shit. Hold on. Wait up. Hold on. Because I got, you know what the problem is? I got notes for this, but I watched it after another one that I didn't like. And I got to edit my notes here because that's the problem. So I can't even talk about these two things that I have written down.
Everybody ignore that.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know if they heard it, but and to each his own, of course. But these movies are the movies that make me glad I watched them before I blind buy them. I try not to be a completist as much on certain things, and I'm glad I'm getting away from that because these 2 movies would have just been a waste of money for sure. Okay, here we go. I got away from that. Look, I'm just not into punk emo movies. I never was a punk or emo or gothic. I dabbled with a bunch of different groups and tried to figure out who I was or where I belonged in high school, but the emo crowd was never even close to who or what I was a part of. I'm not saying you have to be able to relate to movies, but it definitely helps, I think. And I think when you can relate, it's easier to be engaged and interested. I think it's capable of drawing you in. Also, I'm a character person. I want to care for and be attached to characters. I would need to be engaged in this movie. I don't give a crap about these characters either. And I know this is an autobiography. I don't know who Sid or Nancy really were. I didn't listen to the Sex Pistols growing up. Nothing about the story interested me. Why do I hate Chloe Webb in this so much? She's difficult to sit through and watch, I wrote. 1 star for the cute kittens, and I really like the shot of the trash or garbage falling down in slow motion. So I liked about 30 seconds of this movie. Also enjoyed the song at the end. Do a little dance, make a little love, get down tonight. Get down. Depressing end to their story. Honestly, I wanted this movie to end so badly. I was so damn bored watching this. Adam actually texted me during this movie, and I'm like, dude, I just want this movie to be over. So I gave it 1 star. 1 star for Sid and Nancy.
Okay.
Yep.
Not surprised. It was I I actually had that as 8 on your list. There was one that I thought you might hate a little more. So I'm surprised it's not that one. But the reason I'm not surprised is just like you said, this was, you're not like a Sex Pistols fan.
I don't even know who they were, to be honest.
Yeah. The thing I love most about this movie was Gary Oldman's performance as Sid. Um, from everything I've heard, I've obviously never met him or anything like that. The performance was pretty spot on. That's exactly how Sid was. That's exactly how Nancy was. Apparently, people in real life just wanted to punch her in the face at all times. She was problematic. She was loud. She was in your face. So for me, the performances were pretty spot on. The soundtrack, of course, to me was amazing. That's my kind of music. I listen to the Sex Pistols. I know of them. The movie itself, to me, just kind of it is about addiction, but it was also about very toxic relationships that shouldn't happen and shouldn't be a thing, and the red flags and all that stuff is all there, but it was all muddled down by the drugs. They had a very I can't live without you. If I do, I'm gonna die relationship, and that type of Romeo and Juliet mentality, along with drugs, ended up in the way that it ended up. And the fact that it was based off these two very real people who were really unreal is the draw to me to this movie. To me, it was relatively well made. I did like it. I felt like it dragged a bit, but I knew that you were either gonna like it or you were gonna absolutely hate it. I knew you weren't gonna love it just because it's not your bag. But like we talked about earlier, I wanted to show you movies that you weren't gonna just pick up on your own, and this is definitely one of them. And now you know why. But I'm glad that you saw it.
I have to clarify. Mizzy says even I heard of the Sex Pistols. I've heard of the Sex Pistols. I just didn't know who they were.
Listen to them.
I just didn't. Yeah, I didn't know really anything about them.
Listen.
I don't. And it's interesting because there was a movie that Nikki had recommended to me as well that was based on a true story from the '80s, and Star 80, I believe, or Star whatever it was called, and for me, sometimes when I don't know a story, I like that because then I'm going into it blind, and so that could be good. But I do think there's a sense of being able to relate to a movie that does help, at least, or knowing a story. Like, I think it does help me going into a movie that I'm like, okay, I understand this story. I at least know who they are in a way.
Yeah. That was. Yeah, he's.
The cat was the best part of Sid and Nancy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If I'm in here, he has to be in here, and he couldn't get in here a minute ago, so he forced his way through the door. He's off to the side now doing his thing.
Laren says his name was Sex Pistol in high school, his nickname.
Well, Laren, your name is no longer Laren now. I'm going to bring that up in every chat from now on.
Lizzie says Bob could rock eyeliner. I don't think I could.
Yep, we'll smudge it a little bit in the corners. It'll be great.
Yep, we watched Moonraker. Not even sure what that is, but what I love Sid and Nancy. Gary Oldman is my favorite actor. Nice. Sid and Nancy, love my true story. Let me be clear about your list too. There's going to be more to come that I don't like that majority of people like. Like I said, there's a movie on here that I'll discuss in just a second that Tony gave 5 stars to, and I guarantee you Nikki's a fan of. But I will say my number one when I watched it, and I watched it today, and I haven't logged it, so you don't know what it is yet. But my number one, I think Nikki would be a big fan of. Like as soon as I watched it, I was like, Nikki needs to see this movie.
Now I'm like,
Nikki needs to see this movie. I think
at my list,
it's like the first thing that came to my mind afterwards. I was like, yeah, this is right in her wheelhouse. And I could be wrong, right? Like there's who knows, you could be completely off. I could be off and she could freaking watch it and be like, what the hell, Bob, that sucked. But I really feel like after our discussion last week, it's in her wheelhouse. So
it probably is. There's a couple on here that I think Nikki might like now that I'm looking at, but there's one in particular that I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I think I have an idea of like what Nikki likes, especially after our long discussion on last Tuesday. So if you listen, you get to know people's tastes and you get to have an idea of what they like and don't like. And so that's why I hate swinging and missing, because I know for me, I'm recommending so many movies to everybody I do a stream with. I recommend 10 movies. And so if I swing and miss at a movie, I'm like, somebody out there might have liked it and I could have switched it to this person to giving it to. And because obviously they might give it a half star, and then it's like, well, Caprice might have liked this, or Ashley or Mizzy or Nikki, but this person hated it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I feel going into things like that a lot. I'm going to take the now discussing tab off. I kind of caught up with the chat a little bit. Sex Pistols, a band made to sell clothing. Mizzy says, just laughing, Bob could rock eyeliner. Yeah, that's not true, but all right. Oh, Reed, we got Moonrakers. Yeah, I know that one. Yep. I knew that one. Yeah. All right. So, we got Spicy 4K action in the chat saying, hey, what's up, everyone? What is up, Spicy 4K action? All right. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to the Sex Pistols, Nancy?
no.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move on to number 8, if that's okay with you then.
Yeah.
Okay. Where's the brand? I just accidentally spoiled it, so we'll just go right into it. It's going to be Moonstruck, which is a really high rating on Letterboxd. Like I said, Tony gave this one 5 stars. I'm assuming Nikki's probably a big fan of Moonstruck as well. Most people probably are. This is not for me. And I know you said you wanted to put a comedy on there, and I was like, I'll get into my notes. I wrote a quote, snap out of it, as she smacks him across the face, or I can't remember, but yeah, I thought that was funny. Before this movie was halfway over, I took it out of my Amazon cart, and I also removed it from my Google Sheets Criterion collection sheet. I will not be buying this movie. I'm so glad I watched it before I purchased it. And that's what I was writing, because Sid and Nancy's another Criterion title, and I took both of those off my list. And it's like, these are titles I would have blind bought and paid $50 on a Criterion. No, $20 each, so $40. But yeah, still, it's like, you know what? I got to get out of that, because of these. Why have stuff in your collection you're never going to watch again? If I already own it, it's one thing. I don't really sell my movies, but if I don't own something and I've seen it and I hate it, why am I buying it? Unless it's a numbered spine, different story. I found this movie to be so incredibly boring and dull. I wrote a couple Z's down. To each his own. Of course, people love this movie, but this is what you would say a movie that's just not made for me. So far, this list is 1 for 4. I really hope I start enjoying the movies more. I'm not even done watching this, but I came to say how much I dislike it halfway through. Hopefully, it gets better. Olympia Dukakis, easily the bright spot of this movie for me, and she's definitely not enough to save this for me. This is just another movie where I'd rather take a nap during. I just looked it up. Olympia Dukakis literally won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. And it's literally her only Oscar nomination at all, and she won it. I knew Cher was an Academy Award winner. I thought it was for this, and she sure was. This movie won 3 Oscars, the other one being Best Original Screenplay. Okay, so can you please explain to me what makes this movie so charming and beloved? Obviously, it is, but it obviously wasn't for me. Just curious. And then I wrote one other thing. Okay, Tover, I really didn't like this. Very bored. Appreciated the performances, and it's better than I'm giving it credit for. But it's just very much not a me type of movie, and this is a comedy because I didn't laugh once, ? So 1.5 stars on that one as well. So I know can be a really tough critic, and I can be very generous critic in certain ways. But when a movie's not for me, I'm not going to I'm not a 2.5. Like, I'm going to shit on that movie. But obviously that's my opinion. Somebody like Tony gave it 5 stars.
Yeah. It's one of those movies, again, that you either love or you hate. I grew up with this movie, so I see it completely different. I am Mexican and I am Italian, and the Italian side of the family is exactly like the family in this movie. I see the comedic aspect of it. There are some funny lines in the movie, especially from the father. There's one point he's talking to Loretta, and they're talking about the guy who just proposed, and he's sitting there telling her that he doesn't like her, and he says, I don't trust him, Loretta. I can't see his teeth. When he smiles, I can't see him. What's he trying to hide? Like, it's just little things like that. It's very quick, quirky humor. It's old Nick Cage. I love Nick Cage. This is like him in the very beginning of his career. I'm not a huge Cher fan, but I do like her in this movie. It's just very, like I said, the family is very much like my Italian side of the family. They're loud, they're, opinionated, maybe overly sometimes. But it all comes down to family in the end. And in this movie, that's what happened. The ex comes in and he says, "Oh, can we go talk outside?" And she goes, "No, I need my family around me right now." And literally, they were all there, and not one of them budged, not one of them left. They were there for her when she needed them. And the dynamic between the brother and Nicolas Cage for me has always been the most confusing part. Like, I understand like the hatred and everything like that, but they don't really get into the backstory of them too much. It all just comes down to when he cut off his hand. But I find a little bit of charm mostly in Cher and her family. It's not more or less Nicolas Cage and the fiance, but it's more her family dynamic and what's going on. The dad's going through his, midlife crisis or whatever. He's seeing the chick on the side. The mom's at home saying that she knows that he's cheating, and it's just how's this all gonna end up? And at the end, they all end up at the dinner, at the kitchen table. And in Italian families, that's where all the problems are squashed, talked about. That's where all the tears are cried. That's where all the laughs come from. They happen at the kitchen table. And so it was very, I related to that. And so growing up with this movie, I didn't really see it as like a comedy movie. I saw it more as like a romantic movie, but I guess some people see it as funny. But I really don't. I see it more as a romantic movie. I think on my letterbox, I think I gave it a 3 or a 2.5. It's not high up there, but it's something that I grew up with, so I just have it in like a nice regard. But I could see how you would fall asleep to it.
Even 2.5 is like, that's low. Well, I mean, my 1.5 is obviously low because KB also wrote in the chat, this is another 5. He's on board with Tony, a 5-star for this one.
Yeah, I think mine's like a 2.5, 3. I've seen it so many times. And there are a lot of plot holes in it for me. But I do love the movie. It does have its charm. And like I said, it's mostly with the family dynamic. But performance-wise, they've all done better. Cher's done better performances. Nick Cage has definitely done better performances. But it's a nice little movie to throw on. Maybe every Sunday, maybe for background noise. Like, who knows? But I'm glad that you finally got to see it. I remember you told me when you saw the list, you said, if I don't like Moonstruck, I'm going to blame you. And I was like, well, I'm going to get blamed because he's not going to like it. But I'm surprised. I personally thought that it might have been your number 10 at first.
Okay.
At first. But then I changed it around after the Transpotting conversation.
Makes sense. Yeah. It's funny that the way that works, though, is like you can sometimes get a vibe from a director, or like for me, for example, I don't know that I could think of outside of maybe like Mr. Brooks. When somebody recommends Kevin Costner to me, it's usually a pretty big hit for me. Like he just picks roles that I'm really into, from baseball movies to Westerns to things like that. And so some directors have stuff where you're just like, this director works for me. Like everything they do, I like a John Carpenter for most people. And then there's directors where you're just like, man, that like I've seen 3 of this person's movies and I didn't like any. And you just start to get a vibe of like, hey, he's just not for me. He's not making movies that are meant for me to enjoy. And I think that's the way it works. And obviously, I'm going to be more harsh as we go on because there's another one or two that I didn't like as we go on. But you're like, oh my God, sorry. I'm sorry, Caprice.
It's okay.
I'm going to issue an apology letter later on.
In writing.
I'm going to catch up with the chat. But this is why I start with number 10 so we can end on a good note. If there is a good
guess if my number 1 is like a 2, I'm going to be really disappointed.
We'll see. Let's just say there's yet to be a list that I've never given a 4-star to. So we'll see if you get a 4. I've never not given a 4, is what I'm saying. I've always at least had 1 4-star on there. So we'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. I love Moonstruck, Joe says. I've never seen Moonstruck, been told I need the Criterion. Nicholas says I have not seen any of these 3 movies yet. Nikki says I do like Moonstruck, but not one of your favorites. Kind of like you said. Never seen Moonstruck, but I do love Cher. I get the culture, the New York vibe, and how crazy love can make you. I'm another 5-star rater of this one. We got Sydney Eubanks in the chat, says, what's up, everyone? Nikki's saying hi to Sydney. Moonstruck, good movie, 3 out of 5. He's always in the chat telling us what they are always in the chat saying 3 out of what their rating is. So I always enjoy that. Thank you for that, Sydney, as always. I always enjoy seeing that. Okay, so you ready to dive into number 7?
Yep.
Are you happy though that like even though these are poor scores, at least your 2 of your favorite movies of all time haven't popped up yet?
Yeah. But I'm still scared. But it's okay. They haven't been here yet, so that's a win for me.
And they're still not going to pop up yet. The next one up is going to be, how do I say this? It's not a supernatural movie. We've got Jacob's Ladder. I
am interested on your thoughts on this one. I thought that this one was going to be very hot or cold for you, so I'm wondering your thoughts.
Yeah,
because it's not. It's not supernatural. It's not religious. It's not.
It's because it is.
But it's a mix of all of it.
Because it's really happening. But I guess I could give my thoughts, and I don't know how much I wrote. Let me find it here. Because I ended up blind buying this one. I bought it on Blu-ray because it was like $10. If people recommend movies that are $10, little studio release, non-slip, easy to get on Amazon, I'm going to order it. For $10, I'm cool with it, even if I don't like it. I wrote, what in the seizure-inducing dragon sex scene is going on right here? Damn. Okay, that when people talk about poltergeist being holy shit, go watch Jacob's Ladder. That scene could give you a seizure. Holy cow, that's worse than poltergeist. Damn, I didn't know Elizabeth Pena died in 2014. I remember her from Rush Hour. She was kind of sexy in this in a weird kind of way. I'm sorry, Caprice.
Did you see the eye roll? Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Yes, I mean, so good job on that. Okay, for one, I'm not very big into supernatural movies. I get what's happening is really him hallucinating because of the drugs. I guess I kind of got it. We're discussing right now Jacob's Ladder, but I feel like it's hard to talk about this without spoilers. So I'm going to put some spoilers tab on the screen. Okay, if that's cool with you, Caprice.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so most people have probably seen this one by now. Okay, so big spoilers here. I hated that ending too. I don't mean to be an asshole, but this list so far just isn't my thing. I haven't had a ton of fun with it. I have 2 movies left to go, and I really hope I love one of these or really enjoy one. Okay, this was non-exciting and not very engaging for me. Different strokes for different folks. I definitely don't love all the Stephen King movie adaptations. I don't mean to keep bashing on the movies you recommended to me, but they don't work for me. I am sorry, but I'm always going to give my honest opinion. I can't sit here and lie about that. I just didn't enjoy these. I like Tim Robbins, and he's always great, but yeah, nope, this didn't work for me. It's not awful. It's just not made for me. In my opinion, for my taste, it's below average. I got through it, and I didn't hate it. Just didn't like it. I gave it 2. I think at the point, I became disinterested in what was going on at some point. But obviously, so they were being fed drugs, essentially, right, in the Vietnam War.
Without their knowledge, yes.
And but by the end of the movie, he's really dead, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, so so I don't like movies where what I'm watching is not happening or what I'm watching did not happen because he's really dead the whole time. So everything that happens in this entire movie is not real, correct? Pretty much
Um,
from the middle on, I guess. Like
well,
his
there's a
wife. I mean, what? It's so confusing to me because I'm like, they show us that he's dead at the end, but so he died in Vietnam, but I'm like, so none of that shit happened in the movie.
kind of like in The Sixth Sense, right? Where
I've
all of
never
us.
seen The Sixth Sense. Hold on. Hold on.
Oh,
I've never seen The
have you?
Sixth Sense. Hold on. Hold the phone. I think Mizzy said he's putting that on my next watch
I'm
list.
like 90% sure that we've talked about The Sixth Sense.
No, I've never seen The Sixth Sense. So just
Okay, so it's
no.
not like that in that aspect. So there is I wrote down the quote. There's a quote in the movie, and it says, "If you're frightened of dying and you're holding on, if you're holding on, you'll see devils tearing your life away. If you make peace with them, then the devils turn to angels, and they're freeing you from Earth." So the way I took it, my interpretation of that was he was trying to stay on Earth. He wasn't wanting to die. He wasn't wanting to move on. And then once he was ready to let go and he was finally done of it and tired of it, he went back to the old home and he saw Macaulay Culkin, the son. He saw the son there, and the son took him up the stairs, quote unquote, the ladder, and he brought him to the light. The entire movie was him seeing flashbacks of his life, but he was also trying to stay. Ultimately, he was trying to stay here. He wasn't wanting to let go. He didn't believe that he was dead. He was in that limbo area. I'm not really religious in any type of way. I'm more of an agnostic. I'm interested in all types of different religion, but I don't practice one in particular. My family are Catholics, and so when I watched this movie, I did have a lot of questions myself. I was like, what the hell? Like, what the hell is going on? When it goes to even down to the small details of it, like the names in the movie, certain aspects of it, like just references in general. I mean, even the wife's name was Jezebel. Um, and for me, at first, I just thought they were like him and the rest of his regiment. I thought they were just going through really severe PTSD where they were all just seeing all the same things together. But ultimately, at the end, it was because they were all dead. They were all there together, not wanting to move on, not knowing that they were drugged and going through all this stuff. But it's very, it was one of those endings where I was kind of like, really? Like they were dead the whole time? Like, wow. Okay, so that to me was super cool. I thought that was a really neat ending for it. I know that a lot of the visuals and stuff like that aren't, for some. It's like you said, it's not sci-fi, it's not horror. It's like, what do you categorize it as? I still don't even know what to categorize it as, but it's not a horror movie to me. To me, it's more of a drama, but some people see it that way. I I actually really like this movie. It's kind of I don't want to say it's an acid trip, but it's kind of an acid trip. There's a lot going on. Um, it's kind of hard to keep up with if you're not fully versed, I guess, in your religious backstories or religious references or things like that. But I also think it's one of those movies that you can take at your own risk, take it with a grain of salt for what it is, and use your own interpretation. But
See, hearing
I
you
wanted you to see it because it was like I didn't know where you were gonna fall. I didn't know if you were gonna get those religious references. I wasn't sure. I didn't know if the acid trippy scenes were gonna turn you off. I wasn't sure if what was actually happening was going to intrigue you. I wasn't sure. So this was one of those movies that was kind of a scale for me when it came to you. And I was like, fuck it, I'll just let him tell me instead of trying to get.
the religious aspect of it reminds me of when I was growing up. I was a Catholic, and that's how I was raised. And so in church, they tried to teach us about purgatory, which is like where you're in the middle and when you die, you're in purgatory before you go to heaven or hell. You got to kind of get your way to one of the two. And as I grew up and started reading through the Bible, I realized that the Bible never mentions purgatory once. And so it's interesting to see this movie because it almost feels like purgatory in a way. And I don't believe in purgatory personally, but that's obviously my belief. So, but I grew up as a Catholic and in a Catholic church and everything, and they taught a lot of interesting things that as I got older, I came to decide not to agree with. So,
Yeah, this was the one that I was like, I really like. I wanted to ask you just flat out. I just be like, I know we're not supposed to, but can you just tell me like beforehand, like what your thoughts were? It was killing me because I was, even I still like after I think I've seen it 3 times now after this rewatch. Even after this third time, I'm like, I still don't know where I fall. Like, I still don't know if I'm one of those people who's like, oh my God, I absolutely love this movie, or it's good, but you take it with a grain of salt. Like, even I'm kind of like, where do I fall? But I also feel like people need to see it to help me figure out where I fall, because I can't really form. It's one of the only movies I can't really fully form a full opinion on. Like when I go to write like I tried to write a review for it like 3 or 4 times, and I can't really get my thought process right. It's weird, and only a couple movies have done that. But this is one of them where I'm like, do I like it? Like, do I hate it? Like, where do I fall with this? Like, visually, it's stunning. Tim Robbins is amazing as always, and for me, that's easy a 3. But I feel like it drags a little bit. But I do feel like it's a movie that everyone has to at least watch one time. Kind of like What Dreams May Come. It's one of those movies where I feel like everyone has to see that at least once because it's so beautifully done. It needs a 4K. But but everyone needs to see it once. And I feel like this is one of those movies. And I noticed that a lot of people haven't seen it. And so when I recommended it to you, I was like, maybe he can help me figure out my own feelings towards it, because I'm still in limbo myself.
I agree with what you're saying too. Sometimes you watch a movie, and there's been movies where, for me, sometimes I have to simmer on it, even like a Long Legs, where I walked out of the theater and I was like, is it a 3? Is it a 2.5? I obviously don't write reviews on Letterboxd. Maybe someday I'll start doing that. But ultimately, I didn't love Long Legs, just like I didn't really love this. I think that it was so hyped up too, and I know that the overhyped word and stuff like that. It's like go and inform your own expectations, and I did do that. And I had a fun theatrical experience, obviously, with who I saw it with. But like that was one of those where I had to simmer on and try and figure out, like, did I like this? Ultimately, for me, the payoff in Long Legs, the reveal, is what pissed me off about that movie. I did not like it because it goes supernatural, and I'm not a fan.
Me neither.
So
that was my.
But I know you were a big fan of Long Legs. That was one of the best of the year. There's the cat.
There he is. Hi, Daddy. Hi.
What? What? And you got an orange cat too.
Ooh, he picked me.
That's what they usually say. Yeah, that's what they say. Can I catch up with the chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, here we go. I always try to keep my spot at the top so I know where to take off. I know this was basically the comment. So Johnny's in the chat. I need to get out of my depression like funk, and I show up again to hear Bob express his love for Kevin Costner once again. Get used to it, Johnny. By the way, what's up, cool kids? What's up, Johnny? Johnny, feel better, man. Jacob's Ladder, great movie, 4 out of 5. Sydney says Sydney was a big fan. Mizzy trying to. I get it, brother. I get it. Yep. And reach out, Johnny. Reach out anytime. I understand that the Tennessee Titans probably have his depression kicking in. 0-2 start. Holland, Johnny, what's up, buddy? In other words, nothing says I feel you, Johnny. Been going in and out of mine as well lately. That sucks.
Mhm.
My man, Laren.
Thank you.
Like a Jacob's Ladder, but it's a weird film, Joe says.
Okay.
Mental health, treat it seriously. No joke. Reach out to somebody. Anthony's Horror and More says, damn, Jacob's Ladder is so great. It's a trippy ass film, though.
It
Yep.
is.
There's a lot of people just saying hi to Anthony. What's up, Anthony? He says hi to everybody. Always hedge your bets when it comes to religion. You never want to piss the wrong deity off. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Hey there, everyone. Please hit the like button. Hey, Caveman. What's up, Caveman? We got Guy in the chat. What's up? How are you, man? And I'm sure Mrs. Caveman will follow very shortly. You thought your thoughts on the movie In the Mouth of Madness, 1994. I've never seen In the Mouth of Madness.
I absolutely love Mouth of Madness, and me and Dell actually got into when we did our movie swap. That's the movie I recommended to him, and he actually really loved it as well. So that's a really good one. I should have put that on your list. Maybe that'll be the next one.
We got Vinicio in the chat saying, my brother Bob and Caprice. And shout out to Vinicio. We did a stream with him and Adam. It was the four of us. Well, it wasn't a stream, so I guess you've been on the channel 4 times then, because that was for Brain Damage. Arrow video title. And he just got a new tattoo on his head today.
Ooh,
So it was purple. I didn't purple writing. I don't know what it said though. I couldn't see. My brother Laren and Mizzy. So how many tattoos does that make, Vinicio? Johnny says I've just about had it with that mayo infused fuckhead we have for a QB.
mayo infused.
Hey, go check out Vinicio. Go reach out to him if you're interested in some titles. He's selling some movies, so he might have some stuff you're interested in. I love In the Mouth of Madness. Have either of you seen Defending Your Life? I have not. I've never seen it. Oh, the porn star, Johnny. He's not a porn star. Save that for your list, Guy. Uncountable. I've never seen it though. Vinicio, what's up? Okay, all right. So you ready for number 6? I believe.
I am. I'm interested to see where these next ones are gonna fall. Now that I know what's up there, I'm surprised.
Well, as you know, anything 2 stars is like a below average. 2.5 is average, and then anything above 3 is above average. But I consider a 3 a successful recommendation, as I always tell people. So here we go. Number 6, right? Is this number 6? Yeah, this is number 6. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. SLC Punk.
Wow, my heart. It's okay. It's okay. You know
what,
though?
6. It's
I'm
not
happy
like,
where it ended. That
it's
not
number
in the
6.
bottom.
Yeah, it's not, and I got my notes, but yeah, it's not like disconnect like Tim number 8. Thanks, Tim, or Tony Men of Honor number 8. All right, so where is SLC Punk? I do like Matthew Lillard. I wrote down, first thing I wrote was, holy cow, that blue mohawk. That was massive. As I stated earlier, I'm not big into punk emo movies, but I do love me some Green Room, but that's different. That's a little different. You've seen Green Room, correct? Okay.
Of course.
Okay, that was on your list. All right. I figured you'd seen it, though. Haha, Matthew Lillard just mentioned the Sex Pistols I wrote. So that was funny. As soon as Matthew Lillard says, I'll be right back, it brought back memories. I'm sure it was super unintentional, though, but maybe it was intentional. I don't know. Actually dug the soundtrack, or most of it at least. I like Brandy's Eyes, I wrote. I miss late 90s, early 2000s Matthew Lillard, like Summer Catch and obviously Scream and some other good ones. Without a Paddle was kind of fun. But I miss him. Or like old days, Matthew Lillard. He was good. Yeah. You have to feel for Steve-O at the end. Really love that performance in that scene. I'm going to put up my now discussing, and I potentially have to put spoilers up because I feel like I'm going to dive into some spoilers. So we are now discussing SLC Punk, and we're now going to be discussing spoilers. So I apologize. I probably didn't even know that was Steve-O, to be honest, though, until I looked it up. Look, I can see the appeal of this movie, but once again, it's just not made for someone like me. It's not awful by any means, but I didn't like it. I just didn't care enough. I'm going to give it a below average score for me, but I won't sit here and shit on the way I did others. I liked it better than those, that's for sure. But I wasn't a fan of this one either. I honestly didn't expect to be super into this. I was hoping I'd enjoy it more than I did. I know you're a massive fan of this movie. It's one of your favorite movies of all time, and I, of course, respect that. There's aspects to this movie I liked. But some movies just aren't meant for people, right? I obviously love The Town. It's my favorite movie of all time. But if I recommended that to someone that hated bank robbery movies, I would expect them to not enjoy it. So some stuff just isn't for some people. I like the way it was shot. I enjoyed the soundtrack. I like Matthew Lillard, but overall, I was just bored with this one. I just didn't become fully engaged at any point, and I like the ending. Overall, slightly below average for my liking and taste. I gave it 2 stars, and
Mm.
I am sorry. I apologize, but like I don't
Hey.
I don't know too many like the punk emo type of movies that I've ever really gotten super into outside of like Green Room.
Mm.
So
Mm.
obviously, Sid and Nancy's kind of right in that realm, I feel like, and then this one, and I think that's about it for this list, but not really for me. So I do apologize. Obviously, it's your favorite movie. I'm not here to, and it's a 2. It's not even number 10 or 9 or 8 or 7. It's number
Yeah,
6,
that's
and
what I said. I'm happy of where it felt. Surprised, but yes, I honestly thought it was gonna be at least in your bottom 4, because
okay,
again, I didn't think that it was gonna be, even though it's my favorite movie, and I knew that you were gonna take that to heart. It's not something that you're not in that world. You don't you don't follow. You don't live that way. You're not surrounded by a bunch of punk kids or anything like that. You're not sitting there talking about anarchy or anything like that. But it was the structure of the movie that I thought that you would at least appreciate. It was the whole matter of, it's, I don't want to say it's a coming of age movie because they were already older by,
I
when
can
this
see that though. I
it
can see that.
kind of is, in the fact that they were young kids, they were young punks, they were living in a place that, where that was kind of a taboo thing. And they were just against the system. They were against adults. They were against anybody telling them how to live life. So anarchy was everything. And the beautiful thing about SLC Punk is you see the digression, you see the growth, and Steve-O is fighting it tooth and nail, but it's happening around him. Real life is happening around him really quick with Bob, what happened to Sean, his family, what's expected of him, where he's supposed to go. He doesn't know what he wants to do with his own life. All he knows is Bob and him. That's all he knows. And that, anarchy is the only system that he believes in. But as he grows, as the movie goes on, there's at one point he's standing in the apartment with Bob and he's like, what are we doing? Like, where were we going? Like, things just felt out of whack. Things just felt weird. Bob had started dating Trish. He was spending more time with Trish. He was falling in love with Trish. Matthew Lillard was stuck. Steve-O was kind of just stuck in this way. And their friends were going off to college. People were moving away and never coming back. And he just felt, at one point he was just like, I feel like alone. I don't, it's supposed to be me and you. This is supposed to be our thing. This is our, you know, this is not my home. Like, you're talking about how this is home. And then when they finally go to the party, and that thing happens, and he's standing there in front of the pentacle on the cement where the guy's trying to summon the devil. There's a monologue that he starts to say, and he's starting to realize that anarchy and, chaos and madness are not a way of life. Sure, it was back then, but it's like, oh shit, life is happening and things are changing, and I'm not liking this change, but I'm gonna have to accept it. And it's not until Bob passes away where he's like, what do you do when your foundation falls apart? I don't know. They don't teach you that in school. And it's true. There's a traumatic event that happens in everybody's life that instantly changes them, and that changed him. And, he says at the end, that very last line, he's like, fuck you guys. You already know that I went to law school and became, a shitty ass lawyer. And he said the end message of the movie is I became everything I said that I wasn't gonna be. I became, another shitty ass poser. Like, I became an adult. I grew up. And that scene with Bob, I break every single time. When Bob dies and he's laying there and Steve-O is yelling, he's like, I wasn't ready for this. Like, I wasn't ready. Like, I'm tearing up now. He's like, what? He's like, you're my only friend. You're all I have. You're all I have. Like, what the fuck am I gonna do now? And it's just it's a powerful scene. And whenever people watch the movie, it's funny that the main scene that they talk about is when Bob dies, because everybody's had that moment in their life where they're like, shit, like, I'm not a kid anymore. Like, shit's changing and it's changing fast. And where do I go from here? Like, what do I do? I'm a fucking adult now, and now I gotta deal with adult ass things. It's not anarchy and chaos and whatever I want to do anymore. I have to fall into line and I have to do adult things, and I need to figure out my life. And I feel like SLC Punk does that so beautifully. Like, it shows them living their life, having their parties, drinking their beer, not listening to anybody, not working, just rotting away in their apartment and living their punk life. And then, things slowly start to change. Love happens, loss happens, parent dynamic is shown. And it shows all of that so gracefully. And I just speak so highly of this movie because I just feel it just touches at least one thing that all of us have gone through, or known something, or known somebody who's gone through that same thing. And I know it's it revolves around punk music and punk rock kids, and I lived that life and I grew up in that life, and I had green hair at one point. I had pink hair. I was going to punk shows every weekend. I didn't listen to my parents. All that mattered to me was my friends and what show we were gonna go to next. And finally, something happened, and all of us were like, fuck, we're turning into the thing that we always said that we weren't gonna turn into, and that was an adult. So I look at this movie as kind of like my life a little bit. Not so much, not as extreme as Steve-O's was, but I look at it like my life because I was doing those stupid things, and I grew up to be the thing I said I was never gonna be. I went to law school myself, so it's kind of like when he says that thing in the end, like, I just turned into another no good, lousy ass poser, and you laugh about it, but you're like, man, if 15, 16-year-old Caprice met, 38 Caprice-year-old now, she would beat the shit out of her, and it's true. And he said the same thing about Steve-O. If 16-year-old Steve-O had met, 22-year-old Steve-O now, he's like, he'd beat the shit out of me. And it's true. You look at your younger self and you're like, wow, like, how was I doing all that stuff? Like, you look at yourself and you're like, I can't even picture doing that now. If I even look at my legs, my hips pop. Like, you wonder how you were able to get through all that and have that much fun and just be so carefree, and then be like, damn, I really got through some shit. And there's actually a sequel to SLC Punk. Not a huge fan of it at all. There's reasons for that. But it also touches on a lot of the same things. It's another coming of age movie. But it doesn't even hold a candle to SLC Punk at all. So I'm really glad that you watched it, and it landed where it landed. I wasn't expecting it to be number one. But I'm happy with number 6. Number 6 works for me.
And the one thing you had said that I can relate to, and I think you're right, I think most, if not everybody, can in some way at least, unless you live the perfect life, I guess, and exactly where you want to be. But I think a lot of people
Yeah.
they're just like, fuck. I mean, there's a meme out there I remember, and it's like a top and a bottom image, and it's like a cartoon or whatever, and he's just like, you wake up at 3 in the morning and you're just like, what have I done with my life? Like when you just, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, I've been there where I'm just like, shit, like I'm not where I want to be. And I'm not to say like, I try to look at life like, even as an addict, it's like, hey, one day at a time kind of thing, and like, hey, I'm better than I was yesterday, and I got to keep reminding myself like, hey, I want to be better every day, I want to get better. And I think sometimes I take steps back, and that's the problem. And I'm not talking about with addiction or anything, I'm just talking about life, right? Like I,
Mhm.
I'm happy I own, I have my own apartment and stuff, but like it took me a while to get there, and I know some people still live at home, and I'm not to each his own, you know what I mean? And it took my mom kind of pushing me to get my own place. And so I've definitely made mistakes at a younger age where I agree, I would look at myself and beat the shit out of myself and just be like,
Mhm.
how'd you get here, dude? Like I'm happy in a way, but at the same time I'm also like, I want more, and I know that it's on me to do that. So
There's a really awesome conversation that's had at the party, um, between I always forget his name, the brother and Steve-O, where they're talking about chaos versus structure, and they're making their arguments, and Steve-O is fighting his argument. He's like, chaos, this, that, and the brother's he's like, no, you're right, and he said, but you know, like say there's a butterfly dies, decomposes, it turns into something else, and he goes, it's a never-ending circle. Like chaos can't chaos can work for a little while, but it's ultimately going to come all around full circle. Structure, that's chaos can't exist without structure. Chaos can go on for a little bit, but it's not ultimately how you're naturally going to land. And to me, finally Steve sits there and he's taking in what he's saying, and he's like, you're right. Like, you're right. Because he kept saying that night at the party, he goes, it was a weird feeling. It's just a weird energy in the room. And it's because everybody was going through their own thing. Bob was there with Trish, and the friend was sitting on the couch, and he was, getting ready to tell everybody that he was going to leave and go to college. The sister was off her meds, so she was all whacked out, and she was not all structurally there. And he kept saying a weird night, a weird night, but it was the night that kind of put everything into perspective for him. So his structure came into play, and his chaos ended in that room when he beat the shit out of that guy who was having sex with Sandy. Like, that Steve-O part was finally over, and he was finally starting to accept it, and he was like, fuck this party, fuck chaos, but mostly fuck anarchy. Like, there's no point to it anymore. And so it's the realization that we've all kind of had, like, okay, I have to end this in order to move on, in order to progress, in order to figure things out. And that was the moment when he was starting to try to figure everything out, and then bam, Bob passes away. So I always recommend this movie. I know that not everybody is going to be, see it as I do and relate to it as I do, especially if that's not how they grew up or anything like that. But I feel like it's a coming of age movie that people should see, just because, Stand By Me is one of my favorite movies, right? This is up there with that. Two completely different dynamics. Those kids weren't, doing drugs or rebelling against the system or anything, but all of them had homes with weird parents, weird brothers, weird sisters, and all they had was each other. Steve-O and Bob, they only had each other. And so it's just like Steve-O said, what do you do when your foundation falls apart? They don't teach you that in school. And he was trying to figure it out. The same way the boys in Stand By Me were. They were just trying to be each other's family and their support, and they went to go look for a dead body. Um, but I'm glad that you at least watched it and gave it a chance. And like I said, I'm actually surprised that it fell at 6. I thought it was going to be lower. I think I have it as at 8 for you. Yeah,
Okay. Well,
I had it
save
at 8.
that for the end. Yeah, I'm curious what your ranking will be.
Mm. Yeah, I'm interested myself, so that's why I was like, "Oh, I'm surprised at where this is at. Let's see where this goes." But no, I'm glad. I'm happy with it. I
Okay.
mean,
I'm gonna catch up with the chat here. I know what you mentioned. There's a couple people that might not like it, but Laren did, and I know Joe is a big fan. Laren says SLC Punk is so good, great choice, Caprice, but SLC Punk is in Joe's top 20 of all time, which I knew he was a big fan of. Mizzy says Stu. He did not have a mohawk in that one and Scream. Love SLC Punk. The sequel sucks donkey balls. Dolphins are man evolved. Devon Sawa is great in this film as well, Joe says.
mhm.
And Missy just met Devon Sawa. Dell says, "What's
Okay.
up, Dell? What's going on, Dell? How are you, bud?
Hello.
Hopefully life is going well for you." We've got for sure, Joe. The mom scene is fantastic. Johnny says, "Dell, Without a Paddle is another fun Matthew Lillard movie." Anthony says, and I agree. We got a lot of highs to Dell, a ton of highs back and forth. Anarchy in the UK, Laren says. Looks like I need to
Yes,
check out SLC Punk now, Johnny says. Wait, is Bob going extra hard tonight? Number 6 is only 2 stars.
it's Del.
I
He's
am.
being super critical.
I am very critical tonight. In other words, nothing. Maybe you'd like Bomb City, Bob. Bomb City. Let me write it down. Mizzy met Devon Sawa this weekend. Yep. Yes, he did.
I was supposed to too. I was supposed to
Yeah, I
meet.
know. There was a lot
I
of
was
people.
supposed to meet Devin Sawa, and I had all my stuff lined up to meet Eli Roth. Or
Nick has a Eli Roth tattoo. He has the tattoo of the hound from Hostel, which was really cool. Mizzy was just telling me. So he showed Eli Roth. That's really cool. I think if I were to ever get a tattoo, because I don't have any and I don't know if I ever would, but if I were to get a tattoo, it would probably be like a movie quote or like something movie related. I'd probably get like the nun from the town tattooed on me, something along those lines. I feel like I've seen a lot of really cool tattoos with the town, and I feel like I'd do something like that. Maybe Scream related, like a quote from that, but I don't know if I ever would. I'm one of those people like Bomb City is a great based on true story film. Hi Dell, I still need to see SLC Punk. I'm curious if Dell has any tattoos. Mizzy says, I did a very cool guy. We missed you, Joe. Mizzy says, I remember seeing SLC Punk for the first time again, 19. Holy shit, it was life changing. John Doe Juggalo says, I need to see SLC Punk. Mizzy says, Anthony says, I know Matthew Lillard loves the film SLC Punk. I believe it had a profound emotional impact on him while working on it. There's one I'm going to talk to about later on where I did some research today after I watched it, and it hits. I'll talk about it later, but it relates to that. Caprice is making me want to watch it right now. Del says, got lucky got refunded my tickets and show paperwork was admitted in hospital. Oh, nice. That's awesome. That's good for you. I will watch it. I promise you. I've never seen SLC 2. I heard it was trash in comparison, Jeff says. SLC Punk 2 is god awful. I've had the DVD since about 2007, Laren says. Nightcrawler 2014, your thoughts? I like it. Ashley recommended that one to me, and it was high up on my list. Greetings, Bob, Caprice, and Flick Friends. What is up, Steve? How are you, bud? Stand By Me is one of my all-time favorite films, Dell says. Dell is a big fan of Stand By Me. Stand By Me has to be one of the greatest coming-of-age films ever made, Johnny says. Sydney Eubanks says Stand By Me. Very good movie, 3.5 out of 5. SLC Punk is on Tubi, for your information.
as
Smurf
is
in
this.
the chats. Hey, good evening, everyone. What is up, Smirk88? Hey, Smirk, we missed you as well, Caprice, Mizzy says. Hey, Holland, Smirk, lots of highs back and forth. I have 5 tats, Dell says. So Dell does have tattoos. I don't think I've seen any. Joe says Bob would get a full back piece tattoo of Dakota Johnson. Bob's tattoo would be Dakota Johnson.
He would.
I have any of these conversations made you rethink how you build a film? Recommendations you've been given so far. Have any of these conversations made you rethink how you view the film recommendations you've been given so far? Is he so? Is that question's geared towards me? I assume that. Have any of these conversations made you rethink how you view the film recommendations you've been given so far? No, I appreciate. I don't know exactly how to answer that question. I'm still trying to read it, and maybe I'm just like being illiterate. But uh, I love doing these streams because even though I always touch on this, Ashley asked me a long time ago, a while back, do you ever get burnt out? Because if you watch a lot that you don't enjoy, do you ever get burnt out from it? She's like, I'd probably have a difficult time doing that, watching just all recommendations. And so we always talk in this community about recommending movies to each other. And I genuinely feel like that, like, I don't think there's too many people that watches more recommendations than me. I watch about 50 a month, roughly. Anywhere from like 30 to 50 a month, seriously. Almost every movie I watch outside of the theater is a recommendation for these streams, and or I'm rewatching movies I recommend. But I'm grateful for them because I like watching stuff I've never seen, even if I don't like it. There's only one on this list that angered me that I watched it, and that was Heaven Knows What, and I'm still angry about it. But I'll talk about that movie for a long time to come. But yeah, so I don't know, it's fun. But the way if you listen to people, and I think like when I see people give me a second list, I notice that like oftentimes I'll look at it and I go, "Oh, I'm excited about this list." Like Nikki's next list, I'm very excited about. Will I like them? I don't know. I haven't watched any of them yet, but I'm excited to watch them. There wasn't one on her list I was like, "Ugh, I don't want to watch that." And I think Mizzy's like second list was the same thing. Joe's a lot of it, and so it might not always work, but I notice that when people give me a second list, oftentimes I feel like they kind of get to know my taste better. And when I can pay attention to what people like, whether it's in the chat or talking to them or watching what they watch or Instagram and having conversations of actors they like or don't like, I'll get an idea of like, okay, don't recommend this to this person or do recommend that movie to that person. Like I know now, because if you listen, Nikki's a huge Nick Nolte fan. So I know if I recommend Nick Nolte to her, it's a win-win for me in most cases, I feel like. So sometimes you just listen to people and you get to know what they like. And a lot of times I'll ask people like, hey, well, I like this movie. And my friends will be able to tell me like, no, it's not your cup of tea. And I'll appreciate it because either I'll make my own decision and go watch it. But even if I choose not to, then I'll make my own decision. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes I'll go into a movie like Mizzy will say, hey, it's really slow, just a heads up. And I'll go into it. And now I'm expecting a slow moving movie. So I know when to watch it. Because if I put a movie on and I'm like up for a fast paced movie and it's slow, I'm not going to enjoy it, right? How your mood can dictate a movie. And so I think sometimes it helps having friends out there who will tell you, like, hey, I don't know if that's your cup of tea. So you could go into it with lower expectations, I guess, or like that mind frame of like, hey, I might not like this. Frame of mind, I should say. Laugh a lot, right, Nikki? Good evening. Dakota Johnson on one arm, Kevin Costner on the other. Kevin Costner, I could get a lot of tattoos of a lot of quotes and stuff from like Bull Durham. Oh my goodness, there's a quote in that movie. Holy shit. I'm sure Johnny knows what I'm talking about because Johnny's a Bull Durham fan. Not going to get a peep out of me on Dakota tonight. Nope, not falling for it. Hey, Steve. Hey, what's up, Nikki and Steve? Smirk says Johnny is scared he will fall for Dakota Johnson. I really hope I can do better for my second list. Nick Nolte in Teachers, so good. Saw it in theaters. I feel like now is the perfect time since they're all talking about Dakota Johnson to plug this stream on October 4th. You guys talk Dakota Johnson, that's going to come up. So, but yeah, let's see here. We got this is Bob's way of telling me that my list won't get done until 2025 or 2026. I got a lot of lists I still haven't like scheduled the stream for. I finally got around to scheduling Guy's stream, and a little heads up. I mean, I could still do StreamYard for free, but I'm just a heads up to everybody in the chat. Like, I don't know who's heard about it, but StreamYard has raised their rates. I was going to try and pay for the year, and when I went to go pay for the year, it went up to like $387 it was. And I was going to pay $187 for the year so I could keep using, like, have more than 6 guests. So now I'm not going to pay for it anymore. So pretty soon, in about a month from now, you're going to see a duck in my right-hand corner and the StreamYard logo. And I'm not going to be able to have more than 6 guests on. So It sucks, but I'm just not going to pay $45 a month to use StreamYard. KB was in the chat there. He's another one that he said he's done on his story. He's like, StreamYard, you lost me. See you later. So I think that some people might tune out of that StreamYard and just start saying, I mean, $45 is a lot of money to pay for, especially if you only do 3 or 4 streams a month, and especially for the people that aren't making money off of it. I make about, I don't know, $6 a month, if that, on YouTube. So I'm not doing it for the money. And so when you're not making money, it's hard to put back into the channel and pay $45 a month for something. So I might not be doing game nights ever again. If I do, it'll be 6-person panels. So I'm checking out Streamlabs. Okay. Yeah, going to rethink my StreamYard subscription now. Yeah. Yeah, it went from $19 to $45.
Yeah, that's such a jump.
Like, it is. It's ridiculous. And then the other plan went from 40 to 80, $89.99, I think. So, and now you get to stream in 4K. I don't have 4K. I can't. This thing's probably 720p. Like, what the fuck do I need to for? So, yeah. I mean, I'll just take the damn duck in the corner for a while. I mean, that's all I'm paying for right now is to get rid of a duck. $19 anyways. So, I'll take that, and I'll see if Johnny or Jeff or some of them come up with a better service to use, so I could do game nights again. Because game nights without 10 people, 6 people is just not big enough for a game night. So, all right, number 5. You ready for number 5?
Yeah.
All right, so this is the one that I watched very first, I believe. Yes, I think it was first, and it is going to be American Me.
Really?
Yeah, you thought this was going to be really hard.
I am shocked.
I was probably a little distracted when I watched this. Even you were like, dude, watch the movie. I was like, I paused it. I paused it and came back to it. Even Mizzy texted me. He's like, what's going on? You must not like that movie. I was like, no, it's just like my phone's getting blown up right now. And sometimes that happens. And that's where I like to just put my phone away. But first thing I wrote is, damn, I'm glad I never went to prison. Woof, that sex montage of the guy getting raped and having him having sex with the girl. I said, yikes. Let's see here. You're right. It had more oomph, but I guess not the oomph I was looking for. I wrote, because you were like, it has more oomph than the Stand and Deliver.
So this was feedback for Stand and Deliver.
Yeah, I really like Stand and Deliver. I gave it 3.5, and I was like, there was still something missing in that. And then Caprice had said there's more oomph in this, and there is a lot more oomph, but it's not the oomph I'm looking for, I guess.
It's not the same kind of oomph, but there's more oomph.
Yeah, I found literally. I could put the banner up now discussing American Me here. Let me go here. Okay, perfect. Let's see here. Okay, so what else did I write here? I'm just fixing that. This is the kind of movie that you have to buy into the character and the story, and I really just didn't do so. I found it to be pretty blah. I wasn't really invested. The editing took me out of it. That was a big thing. I actually enjoy quite a few gangster type of movies. This one just didn't draw me in. I wrote, no, hold on. Spoilers. Big spoilers I'm going to get into. Big spoilers. All right, so spoilers. Here we go. Spoilers for American Me. I wrote, damn, he got fucked up at the end.
He got fucked up, yeah.
I can respect and appreciate the movie. Just didn't keep me interested enough. Like I said, didn't buy into it, but it's a good story. I just didn't buy into it, and I appreciate hood or gangster type of movies quite a bit, and quite a lot of them. But yeah, I just wasn't into this one. It was okay at best for me. I'll give it an average 2.5 because of the lead performances and story. Otherwise, below average for me, maybe a rewatch someday. I do own it. I had this one already because it's a Shout Select title, and I collect all those numbered spines. So I did already own this one, so that was nice. Yeah. But that's everything for me on this one. There's definitely some oomph, like a lot of rape, male sex rape. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. This one was one that I was on the fence about. So backstory about this choice. So originally on my original list, I had Stand and Deliver on my list. Stand and Deliver Tim got to it first, so I was like, okay, this is gonna be payback for Stand and Deliver. It was between this and another one. The other one that I had in mind, I was kind of like, I don't feel like he's gonna connect with that one at all. I would rather have this one on here and have him give it a lower score than not enjoy it at all. This is another true story movie. Edward James Olmos is, you know, his portrayal of Santana is incredible. The scene in the cemetery where he's talking to his father for the first time. Anybody who's seen American Me knows that the father, Santana's father, and Santana, they have basically no relationship whatsoever. And he finally gets the answers as to why the relationship never worked out. That's one of the pivotal moments in the movie for me. Not even like the rape scenes or anything like that. It was Santana finally getting the answers as to why him and his father have no relationship. He tells him flat out, like, I tried to love you so many times, but every time I looked at you, like, I wondered whose kid you really were, because your mom was raped the night of the Zoot Suit riots. Like, he was just telling him the story of why, like, he couldn't connect with him like he did with, like, his little brother. And just seeing I've never been to jail. I've never been to prison. I don't know what prison life is like. I'm not even going to sit here and pretend like I do. But according to people, this depiction of prison is pretty effing accurate.
That's bad.
You have people, cut off into groups based off of race. You've got, things like that happening. And when this movie was actually released, it caused a lot of backlash. People did not want this movie made. People were angry that it was being made because of the depiction of La Familia, and it was just, it was just a bad, it was a bad thing. It was, it's a long movie, and it's a hard one to get through, but I feel like once people get through it, they're kind of just like, obviously the first thing they're gonna, talk about is the rape scenes. But to me, this rape scene is really no different than the rape scenes that you see in Shawshank Redemption. You're seeing Tim Robbins get raped a couple times in that movie. I think there's 2, if I'm remembering right, I think there's 2 rapes in this one.
There is 2. I think there's 2.
And then one of them is happening while Santana is having his first interaction with a woman ever. And he doesn't know what he's doing. All he's ever known is prison sex. And they show that. And so it's the interaction between the girl and him at the party, where she's like, you're nothing but a gangster, and these, you kill kids, you get kids killed, and they look up to you, and all this stuff. And then he says, well, then me and you have nothing else to talk about. He has in his world, he's like the end all be all. He has no regrets. He has no thought process on anything until he's talking to the friend in the window, and he's like, again, what are we doing? What are we, like, what is the purpose of all this? And then he gets, killed. And it's a crazy movie to watch, because it's like, once he, a character who has no remorse, no regrets, is seen as a monster, a killer, starts to have those things, he gets offed. And it was just like, damn, like, I wish he would have had that, aha moment where he was like, I'm not doing this no more. But when he got to that point, he got killed. So it's not a happy ending movie. And I know we've talked about it multiple times. Like, we don't need movies to always have a happy ending. And this one definitely doesn't have one, in my opinion. But I have a kind of a soft spot for movies that are based off of real things. I like to see depictions of things and then go and do my research on it and see how accurate it is. It's just a weird thing that I do. And from everything I've read, everything that was shown on camera and the reason why it was such a big deal that it was released because it was so true. So that kind of rang in deep for me. And my father used to love movies like that. He loved American Me. He loved Stand and Deliver. He loved The Godfather. He loved Goodfellas, Casinos. Like, that was his thing. And so I had seen this movie when I was pretty young. I probably shouldn't have seen it when I did, but I did. And I'm kind of glad that I did. It got me, it got me into this space where I like to go and do a lot of research, and I do watch a lot of movies based on true things. Obviously, if you look at my list, how many of these are based off of true stories or actually happened? Quite a few of them. But I'm surprised it landed as high as it did with you.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty surprised by that. Oh. I didn't think it would, but
are you surprised by the list yet? Like, is there one?
Okay. I mean, the bottom 4, not so much. Those ones I kind of already knew. Okay. Like, by the time we hit 6 and now, I'm a little surprised.
Well, I got to say something, because there's 2 movies, I think, one from the 50s and one from the 60s. Yeah, one from the 50s and one from 1962. People like to tell me, and we're going to get into one next. I'm going to take spoilers off the screen here. People often tell me, oh, you don't like older movies or something.
That's not true.
2 of the 4 movies that are in your top 4 are 50s and 60s. So, my thing is, like, for me, I think I didn't obviously grow up in the 50s and 60s. Oftentimes I got to put myself in the shoes of it. Like, I like Scarface from 1932 a lot. So they're just hit or miss. And I think sometimes I'm spoiled by what we get today, but they're still great movies in the 50s and 60s. But I think it's a stigma around me in particular that, oh, Bob doesn't like older movies. And it's like, some just don't work for me. You got to find the right ones. You know what I mean? They're very, like, hit or miss, they seem like, because Nikki found a good movie from the 50s for me. And there's one on your list from the 60s that's going to be pretty high on there. So, you know which one it is now. But so, I mean, we'll get into number. I'll dive into the chat and then I'll talk about it. But and I'll talk about kind of my thoughts on it. We got Johnny saying, if you want me to destroy a physical copy of a Dakota Johnson movie, then all by means have me on that stream. Big fan of American Me, Joe says. Don't look at me, little puppet. Now discussing, I guess I don't know if I put that up. To Kill Me Goes Part 2 with Dakota Johnson movie. I love American Me, but it's a tough watch, Dell says. American Me was brutal, Nikki says. I know almost got into a shitload of trouble because of this film. Ooh, yeah, that's what she was just saying. Joe says Edward James almost had a great. Is that how I'm pronouncing it correctly? Yeah. Had a great green light on him after the film was done by the Mexican mafia for his portrayal of the film. Yeah. Wow. What's up, Joe? Hi, Steve. American History X was brutal rape as well, Mizzy says, and I like American History X a lot. I remember hearing that, Joe. Kudos to him, Dell says. American History X is so underrated, Mizzy. American History X, 4.5 out of 5, Sydney says. American Me and Blood In, Blood Out are always a good double feature. KB told me when I posted it on my story I was watching American Me. KB posted and he was like, ooh, good, but it's no Blood In, Blood Out. And I've never seen Blood In, Blood Out. And then I saw how long it was. And I was like, what the fuck? That shit's 3 hours long.
Yeah, that's a long one. It's good, though.
I watch a lot of thrillers. I watch movies that will make you think. That's always a good thing to do, though.
Oh, my God.
Goodness. Mr. Cruz. Oh, shit, Tom. Bob doesn't like older movies unless they have older women in them. I watch classic movies, too. I watch movies from 1920s, silent films, as it's called. And I like Charlie Chaplin movies. So that's the thing. It's like, I think it's an oftentimes just like, oh, you know, it just, they got to be the right ones. I mean, there's a lot of newer movies I don't like, too. It's funny because, well, I'll talk about it later on. I definitely need to add American History X to my watch list. Okay. All right. I'm just going to dive into number 5 with number 4. Number 4. Correct. Number 4. It's going to be Creature from the Black Lagoon. Wow, you thought this would be a lot higher. Okay.
No, I thought it was gonna be lower.
Oh, you thought it was going to be lower. Okay.
I underestimated myself.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. I would thought the wow might have been because it was.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so Creature from Black Lagoon. Let's see. I wrote very slow. Um, I posted this on my story, and I usually do. I had so
I
many people message me after I posted Creature from Black Lagoon because it's my first introduction into Universal Classic Monsters. And you were very happy to pop my cherry. And
yes. Yes.
take my Universal Classics Monsters virginity.
It
Um,
is forever mine.
and I watched it on Blu-ray, and I have that set behind me
Yes.
somewhere. But you know what? I didn't open that because I just don't want to open it. It's a beautiful set. It's like my favorite art piece in my collection. I'm not usually the biggest into artwork, but I love it. I wrote very slow. It looks amazing. It's really pretty, beautifully shot. Main actress was easy on the eyes. I wrote. I Hey, look, that's always a helpful thing. Okay, eye candy goes a long way, especially with me. Okay, I
Yeah,
like
I
the
agree.
score.
She was.
I like the score a lot. I like the cast; they were likable and well acted. That's one ugly, freaky looking creature. It's really cool that that's a person in that costume. Effects still hold
Mm-hmm,
up today.
mm-hmm.
Kind of drags for me, even after it picks up. Just felt a little bit repetitive towards the end. I know it's older, and there's a respect level and appreciation I have for it, but it's not really my cup of tea. It's not my speed. Didn't mind it, just didn't really enjoy it either. But I respect it for sure. Also, that great score grew tired towards the end. I wrote.
Yeah.
It's an excellent score. I've really liked it, but it gets quite loud and overdone towards the end. Probably my favorite part of the movie, to be honest. It's really good, but it bit overly loud, especially towards the end. You start to be like, "Damn, this is ringing in my ear," but it's really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's beautifully shot. That's the one biggest takeaway I had from this. But once it finally picks up and that you start to get some of what you want in this movie, I feel like it just gets a little bit repetitive. I feel like this movie could really benefit from a remake, and I know James Wan is set
Yes.
to kind of remake it. I feel like a lot of these universe. I think some movies don't need to be remade. There's some where you shouldn't touch it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
mind remakes. They'll never bother me because somebody gave me a good piece of advice once. Instead of looking at it like I was so nervous when Scream 5 was getting announced because I love the first four Screams. And my
Right.
friend was like, instead of looking at it like, oh, they're going to shit on Wes Craven's legacy or the other Scream movies, look at it instead like, oh, even if you don't like it, it should just make you appreciate the first four even more. And so I twisted my mindset and my thinking into doing that where I think about movies I see, whether sequels or remakes, and I take it for what it is. And if I don't like it, I don't look at it like other people do, where they're like, oh my God, this just shit on Wes Craven or John Carpenter's legacy. It's like, no, you can't take away what Wes Craven did. You can't take away what Creature from the Black Lagoon did. But I do think this could benefit from a remake. But
Mm-hmm.
for fans like yourself who absolutely loved it, it can't take away, even if James Wan doesn't do a good job, let him have his moment and try it. And if he doesn't like it, it doesn't take away what 1954 or 5 Creature in Black Lagoon did, 2 maybe 1952. But yeah, and I know there's
Mm-hmm.
2 sequels that came after it. So and I
Yeah.
heard the score is not as loud in the sequels.
No, it's not. The sequels they don't even hold the torch. The Creature from the Black Lagoon essentially saved Universal from going bankrupt. They were, creating sequel after sequel after sequels for the original Universal monster movies that were box office hits, and they were just running out of ideas. Um, Creature was going to be the last installment. They knew it was going to be the last installment because they were like, this market is running out. It's running out of interest, but it was running out of interest because they were just adding sequels and sequels and just beating the hell out of these other monsters, and it was just like you could only do so much with them. And so when Creature came out, it blew up for Universal, and it essentially saved the studio. And then they did the same exact thing that they did with Frankenstein and Dracula. They just started adding more and more and more to it, and eventually the Universal monster lore kind of died down because people were just like, well, we're over it now. You're just recreating all these new stories with all these same characters, and it's like we kind of need to move on from that. But a lot of the times when the Universal monsters get brought up, Creature is not brought up as much. even though he's the one that saved everything, it's the ones you're usually hearing about the most are Frankenstein and Dracula. That's really who you're hearing about. And for good reason. Those are the quintessential monsters. You can't beat Frankenstein or Dracula. Like, just those performances are fucking legendary. You can't. But I feel like Creature he's not looked at hard enough. Neither is Wolfman and Invisible Man. The Invisible Man to me is kind of lowest on the totem pole, just because that one to me is more of a comedy. It's not scary. Creature was a monster that you never saw before. People don't even know that he's actually referred to as Gilman. He's not even he's actually called the Gilman, but people just call him Creature. You hadn't seen something like that back then. He was a whole new monster that people were like, what the hell is that? Like, it's a fish, it's a man, like, what the hell is it? And the music, I know how you said, the music got potentially louder near the end of the movie, and you're 100% right. I've pointed that out a couple times. Like, near that ending scene, the music is just blaring over the audio, and you're just like, what are they saying? I can't hear them. But the theme song for Gilman is just so, people know it the minute they hear it, and they know that it's from Creature from the Black Lagoon. And that creature changed creature features after that. Water monsters became a thing. And Steven Spielberg said about Jaws, he said, when I was young, I saw Creature from the Black Lagoon, and I was terrified of the water after that. And he said, so when I was making Jaws, I was thinking about monsters like that. And he said, how much more scarier can you get than a shark? And he was like, well, I remember Gilman, and he was scary as hell too back then. And so it's neat when I get to show people him, because like I said, he's not one of the ones that people are like, oh yeah, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Like, I love when I get to show people this movie and they're like, dude, he's actually really cool. He's actually really cool, and the movie itself is really neat. It's not usually people's, top Universal movie, but for me, just how I got introduced to it from my mom and my grandma, like, that movie for me is like tops. That movie helped start my love for horror, and it'll always have a special place in my heart.
He looks really good, and it's really cool that it's a person in the costume.
It is a person.
But I think with these older ones, like A Creature from the Black Lagoon, and I haven't seen any of the other ones, I can find appreciation in them. And I gave this 2.5 as well. Mm-hmm. And it's number 4. So
that's 3. Crazy.
Yeah, so only a potential of 3. We'll see if we get there, but even any get a 3-star. No, Creature from the Black Lagoon. I understand the appreciation for this movie. A lot like the other ones. There's only one that like I don't get, and it was my number 10, where I'm just like, I won't agree with you. I think it was shit. Like, I'm sorry. And other ones I can find an appreciation in. Kind of like I've talked to Nikki about like last week, and I'll be able to, even though I give it a low score, I can find an appreciation, and I'll be able to understand what people like about it. Number 10, I couldn't. This big time I can, okay? And I also believe, like, the problem is I'm so spoiled today with so much gore and violence and all this stuff, is that when I rewatch something like Creature from the Black Lagoon, or even a Jaws, which I really like Jaws, of course I love it, but it is, I think Jaws is slightly dated. That shark just, I know people think that the shark still looks great. It just does not, to me, really all that well. But I think the creature still looked really cool. I actually think, dare I say this, I think the creature looked better than the shark does in Jaws to this day. I feel like the sexy creature hold up better than the shark does in Jaws. I mean, I like Jaws, but I started speaking of Jaws, I started giving it a break on a rewatch every year, because I was starting to get bored of it, because it drags in parts.
Yeah, Jaws. A little bit.
And I feel like it's one of those movies. There's just some movies in the world, like Halloween is one of them, Jaws is one of them, where if you even say one bad thing about it, they'll come to your house and have it burned alive, right? Like burn down
You're
your house.
choked. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel like Halloween's one of those. Star Wars, you just have your like cult followers of it where you just are not allowed to speak a bad word. Mizzy just watched Return of the Living Dead. We watched it together. I give it a 3. It's a very low 3. That movie is beloved by Adam. I think you are a big fan. I know a lot of other people love that movie. It's a 5-star film to most people. It's one of the greatest zombie movies ever made for a lot of
Yeah.
people. They love that movie. Mizzy gave it 2 stars. He was afraid to rate it on Letterboxd because he was afraid people would get mad at him. And it's crazy to think, though, that's how some people truly feel. Like, I can't even give my real opinion because I'm afraid people are going to get mad at me for it. In movies like a Halloween, a Jaws, Return of the Living Dead, some people feel they can't even give their honest opinion because they're going to get yelled at for it. And it's like, you should be allowed to give an opinion. You know, just
That's the
respect the
whole
person,
thing.
respect that person.
That's the whole thing, though, that people need to start understanding is that film is subjective.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have the people that are gonna be, if you love a movie, like we'll use SLC Punk right now, right? That movie to me is number one in my life. I will ride or die for that movie until the day I die. I love that movie to death. Now, do I know that other people feel the same way? Absolutely. Do I know that other people don't and that, but they still appreciate it? Yes. Do I know people who have said they absolutely hated it and then it was dog trash? Yes. Does that affect my feelings towards the movie? Fuck no, it doesn't. That movie is for me. If it's not for you, that's fine. If you don't like it, that's also fine. That's not for you. It's for me. Like, but don't scrutinize my feelings for it and talk down to it to me and make me feel like some kind of asshole for liking it just because it didn't have a connection with you. Just because you didn't have it, like I might not have a connection with the town.
Mm-hmm.
I might be like, the town is shit to me. Is that going to affect your feelings towards that movie? No, because you've made a connection with that movie.
Exactly.
And it's like, I hate when I see people, say like in the comments or whatever, they're like, oh, it was, the movie's good, but it's bullshit. And I saw in somebody's live once, somebody was like, wow, I guess now we see what kind of caliber of movies that you like. And I instantly got defensive and I'm like, what the hell does that even mean?
We're looking down on people because of how they feel about.
Like,
If you like Visual Vengeance and Cauldron, and that's your cup of tea, and you give those 5 stars, so be it. It's their cup of tea. It's not yours, okay? Don't look down on them because of it. You speaking of Ride or Die, and I know you're a big Scream fan like I am, and so is Missy. Dude, Scream, Halloween doesn't hold a candle to Scream, if you ask me. Like, I love Halloween. Don't get me wrong. I think
I love Halloween too.
But Scream is above Halloween in every aspect for me. I said it.
I would, if I had Scream and Halloween in front of me, I would pick Scream and then I would watch Halloween after.
Yeah.
I have a love and an admiration for Halloween. I do. But I would pick Scream over it because I connect more to Scream.
Mm-hmm.
That does not devalue Halloween whatsoever.
No.
Halloween has college courses for it because it's considered the perfect movie. They have college courses for Halloween. Like, nothing I say or nothing you say is going to devalue Halloween or the franchise in any type of way. That's ridiculous to even think or say. But when someone's going to come at you and say that you're a POS because you don't see Halloween or any other movie, as the work of God, like, that's ridiculous to me. Everybody is subject.
Honestly speaking, Caprice, there's one franchise out there where I feel it is like how they say Taylor Swift has her cult followers, like just her Swifties.
Oh, I say that all the time. She is a cult.
Yeah,
she's a cult.
I agree. My brother-in-law hates her. But I feel like Star Wars, the big Star Wars fans are like a cult. They look down on other people who don't like Star Wars and don't feel the same about them. I get a really bad, I'll just say it, like the ones who are huge cult following like Star Wars. Yes, they I just keep my thoughts to myself because I've gotten comments from them and I'm just like, go fuck yourself.
That's
Kind of.
okay. I won't. So I really like Star Wars. I love Star Wars, actually. My favorite Star Wars movie is The Empire Strikes Back. I grew up with it. My mother loves it. When I went to Disneyland and I met Chewbacca, I cried like a baby. I was 25 years old. It again, it's subjective. The only luckily for me, the people who I hang out with who love Star Wars as much as I do, the only people they've ever come down on are Trekkies. I've never heard one of them go off on someone because they didn't agree with, the Star Wars life. I've luckily never run into that, but I have seen online people go after people because they're not like, live and breathe Star Wars, but again, that might not be for everybody.
Right.
Not everybody is sci-fi.
Dude,
Not everyone
Star
is in
Wars is not my cup of tea at all. Like if you could put my cup of tea in, my taste in a cup, Star Wars would be so far on the other end of it. And so would Harry Potter. Wouldn't even be close to, in spitting distance of what I would want to watch.
It's not your thing. So nobody has the right
to the world likes it though.
Yeah, so nobody has the right to go to anybody and make them feel like a piece of shit just because they don't live and breathe the same thing that you do.
Mm-hmm.
I love Doctor Who. I love Star Wars. I love horror. I love Disney movies. I love all these things, but I'm not gonna go to you and be like, Mom, you're a piece of shit because you don't want to watch this Disney movie. Like, what kind of person would that make me?
Honestly, Caprice, as big of a horror fan as I am, and I know you are too, I don't get involved in the social media aspect of horror fans. I feel like horror fans can get very toxic as well and very judgmental. Like diehard horror fans, where like the Nightmare on Elm Street artwork, for example, like, oh my God, it was just nobody was talking about the movie or the 4K. Everybody's talking about something else. It's just like I see some posts from horror fans and I'm like, this is why I kind of keep out of the horror talk. I'm a big horror fan and I'll talk with my close friends about it because we're not crazy about it. We're not going to go crazy, but we have the knowledge. We appreciate it. We're just not going to be that crazy about it, on social media or something, or get that toxic or negative. It's like, it's not
definitely toxic. And it kind of blew overboard with that Nightmare on Elm Street release. It's like, you guys, I know you guys have been waiting for this for a long time, but it's literally the movie that you're waiting for. You're not waiting for the cover art. Like that's not the importance. The importance was getting this movie on 4K. Like that's what you ultimately wanted and been bitching about for years and years and years. And you're mad, you're finally getting that, but you're mad about the artwork.
Mm-hmm. And then they'll still be mad about the transfer. I'm sure you'll hear about it a lot about that.
So it's like a lose-lose situation.
It
like
really is. Some of these companies, I think
anybody.
In Paramount, to be honest with you, everybody was complaining about the Paramount Scares box, and I told Mizzy, I said, from a business's perspective, I wouldn't have listened to fans and gave them what they wanted because everybody was upset. They wanted the movies individually released, like Friday the 13th Part 2. But I bet giving that to fans, I think they're going to hurt their sales of the Paramount Scares box set because most people were really banking on buying that because of Breakdown or because of Friday the 13th Part 2. And because Paramount's giving fans an individual release, I feel like it's going to hurt the sales of the Scares box set. And I just don't like, I want to give fans what they want to. I understand that as a business perspective, but I took business courses in college and everything. And at the end of the day, it's a business and we need to make money too. And, you know what I mean? Like I'm giving you the movie. Be happy about that. Like, yeah, you got to buy
giving you what you actually want. Like,
yeah.
Be grateful. Like,
these companies, I can complain about that too. Like, hey, we don't get this, or why did we get this in a box set or something? I get the complaints, but it's like, hey, just be glad we're getting it. And at some point, the thing is, I think people overly freak out, like, oh my gosh, why aren't we getting Friday the 13th Part 2 individually? And it's like, give it time. Just wait a year from now. I bet it'll get re-released. And instead, they gave it to you at the same time as the box set they're releasing. It's like people need to just have patience instead of freaking out. Like, I get you want it now, but it's gonna come in a year. Like, relax. Trust me, it's going to be there. It'll come.
That's what happens.
Yeah, even the Hitcher, like, the Second Sight. I know people were really freaking out about that. Like, when's it gonna come? It's like, let Second Sight do great work with it. Like, don't rush them. Like, it's gonna be hopefully it's beautiful. Like, don't rush them. Can't rush perfection. But let's catch up with the chat here. We got John Doe Juggalo says, I gotta watch Creature in 3D.
I can't wait. I'm gonna see it in 3D on the October 23rd on the big screen in 35 millimeter with my grandma and my mom, and I cannot wait. I am gonna die in that theater. Just let me die right then and there. I'll die a happy girl.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing your kind of reaction to that one. Joseph, Bob and I had a good decision while I was in the hospital about it. K-Man says, cherries being popped here and everywhere. LOL. I'm an Ana de Armas and Sweeney guy. He just likes big boobs. That's why he likes Sweeney. But De Armas is beautiful. I will take Ana de Armas 100 times over Sydney Sweeney.
No.
Like Sydney Sweeney, yeah, I know. She's got a big chest. That's what Tom Cruise loves about her. Looks good in 3D. What's up? He's just not even that big.
It's not even that. I don't like her face. Her body's hella nice, but her face, I don't like her face.
Love to criticize women, but as long as I'm doing it with another woman, it's okay. No, I'm joking. But I love how we are criticizing a woman. It's a joke, but
I know
Sydney Sweeney is not my favorite actress.
I don't like her. Is that? And I'm not one of those chicks who doesn't like chicks. I have my favorite actresses. She's just, I don't know. I'm probably gonna get super nice for this too, but I also don't like Jenna Ortega.
Oh, I don't like her. You're not the. I think there's a lot of non-Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega and Sydney Sweeney, I feel like are super overrated, and I can't get into them.
And they were like the it girl.
De Armas, though.
Ana de Armas, she's a good actress too. She's really good.
Actress, and she's gorgeous, so that's a win-win for me.
Yeah. Dell says Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein are my favorite Universal monster flicks. In other words, wasn't The Shape of Water supposed to be a remake? I mean,
I don't think it was supposed to be a remake of actual Creature from the Black Lagoon. I know it was heavily inspired. I don't think it was supposed to be an official remake. Not underneath the Universal Dark Universe. It's not like in line with like the Invisible Man remake or the Wolfman movie that's coming out. It's not in line with those.
See, I love the Invisible Man remake.
I did too. It was a great opening for the Dark Universe, and then it just kind of fell apart, and now it's kind of re-coming up. They went back to the
Lee Winnell, because after Upgrade and Invisible Man, he's big time. I mean, I could do without the Supernatural Paranormal Activity director or whatever the hell it was. But Johnny says, as much as I love original Frankenstein, Bride was the better film. Mrs. K-Man says, when I was a kid, they had Creature on Saturday mornings. Creature feature on Saturday mornings. They played various horror movies. Creature from Black Lagoon was a favorite of hers. Mm-hmm. Tread lightly on Return of the Living Dead, Bob. Tread lightly. No, and that's the thing. Like, I give it 3. I'm not even the biggest fan, though. I think it's so slow to start, and it's just not my favorite. I thought it, 3 stars, above average. I appreciate it, but yeah, I was kind of bored with Return of the Living Dead. Sorry, Johnny, love you, man. Johnny's laughing. Joe says, say how you feel about films. I crap on Nightmare on Elm Street all the time. It's pure ass to me. It's your feelings. Don't be scared to express it. Oh boy.
Wow.
Oh boy. Mizzy says, I would never kiss in anyone's rating of a film, piss on anyone's rating of a film. We just have different opinions. Yeah, well, he did last night for me. Bob is just up there digging his own grave. I'm telling you, the keyboard warriors are coming. I don't care.
Bob didn't say it. It was me. So the
Halloween is good, but Scream is 1,000 times better. I said it. Thank you, Del. Thank you, Del. Let's go, Del.
This is why you're my people, Del.
Yes, you Del. Get it. Yes, 100%. And I love that it's gonna piss some people off.
And that's no disrespect. Oh,
my
disrespect.
Devil Owl edition just shipped. Let's go. Nice. Yeah, I saw somebody get that. I think I love Star Wars. Star Wars fanatics can eat.
Dell's got some words tonight, and
I
I love.
love Star Wars, but the fanatics can eat a dick. That's great. Johnny says that's what this community should be like. We all don't need to be like-minded. Our differences should be collaborated. Right, exactly. Johnny doesn't like Dakota Johnson. I do. Mizzy, sir. Yes, sir. Johnny Empire is also my favorite as well, Caprice.
It's where everything happened.
I side-eye Bob all the time for not liking Harry Potter. Best franchise ever made. Joe, out of here. I only looked down on Star Trek. Piss on that franchise. Look at what we started. Bob still wants a steelbook set of Harry Potter. I need all the metal steelbook boxes.
I'm gonna send it to him for Christmas. I have them. You can have them.
Yes, be happy we're getting a 4K of a movie despite the artwork. Friday the 13th sells, so they're all coming out in about 82 different packages of the same 4K. He's not wrong. Jen Ortega needs a kick down the stairs. 1 hour photo, 2002. Your thoughts? I like 1 hour photo.
Love that movie. Love it.
I thought Invisible Man remake was meant to be a standalone after the Dark Universe failures, Dracula Untold, and Tom Cruise's The Mummy. Sorry.
Yeah, after The Mummy with Tom Cruise, they went back to the drawing board because they were like, we can't have this. And now they're coming out with different variations and they're scrapping those and they're not.
Sydney's comment, Caprice.
The Dark Universe.
All Scream movies suck. Wrong. Dang, I really enjoyed Chevy Chase's turn at being the Invisible Man. Oh, I don't even know what he's talking about there. Okay, number 3. So once again, we're still not at a 3-star yet. So this is I'm just gonna give you stats. Jeff previously held the lowest. His list had only 4 above 3 stars. So the best you could do is 3 above 3 stars. So we'll see if get a 3-star in here. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Number 3 is I never sang for my father. My biggest, it's a gripe and it's also a compliment, it's a gripe, I guess, is that it's so much like a stage play because it was a stage play. But if I wanted to watch a stage play, I would just go watch a stage play. And this movie plays out so much like a stage play. So I just feel like I'm watching a stage play, which is also kind of cool in a way, I guess. Okay, so I gave it 3 stars. The handheld camera work in the beginning is so interesting. It is so interesting the way it is. And I looked at some reviews and people were really ripping it and say like this guy just did not know how to make a film. I found it to be unique. But this has really high scores overall, though. It's a pretty high rated movie, but I don't know anybody that's seen this. The movie had 3 Oscar nominations: Melvin Douglas for Best Actor and Gene Hackman for Best Supporting Actor, plus Best Adapted Screenplay, but it didn't win any of them. But Gene Hackman will oftentimes say this is his favorite role he's ever played, or it's his best acted role. It's his favorite character, I guess, or whatever. I didn't think the score fits very well early on. I thought the score was off for the way the movie was. So I'm almost an hour and I'm running to the bathroom, updating my notes. It's damn slow, that's for sure. The art is there, but with how it's delivered, it's taking me out of it. I think better score, editing choices, and a sense of direction would have benefited this movie more, but still 40 minutes to go. But it's not bad, just pretty slow, really slow. You can really tell this was adapted from a play. It plays out exactly like a play. I don't disagree with the sister. I think she means well. I guess I could put up what we're discussing here. I never sang for my father. But let's see here. I don't disagree with the sister. I think she means well and she gives tough love, but I don't necessarily agree with everything she says either. It's an interesting dynamic between Gene and his sister Ellis. So I'm up for tough love, though. I'm all for tough love. See, I agree that he has to man up, but I also understand where he's coming from. He says, I want to love him. Maybe I can find something if I stay, he says. Let's see here. It really does feel like I'm watching a play, though. And for people who are big fans of stage plays, they probably really appreciate this movie. For me, it's just a massive slow burn. It has great performances. Mizzy just texted me. You had to go calling me out like that, huh? It has great performances, damn good performances, but it's also pretty boring. But I don't know what to make of the camera work. On one hand, I really like it. On the other hand, it's so different and unusual. But I think it
Yeah.
suits this movie. I like it being different. I've always been a big fan of camera work, but damn, the editing is just piss poor in my opinion. I get what
Mhm.
they're going for with the editing style and choices, but it's a no for me. It kind of takes me out of it. I
Mhm.
wrote that nursing home scene is basically what nightmares are made of. Holy shit. But it's so weird, that scene. It's like, I guess it's meant to be, though. I guess it's meant to be. I do love the scene towards the end in the final act with his dad where the two of them just sit. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Um, Dad got me. I guess I could put spoilers up for this. I'm gonna put spoilers up for I Never Sang for My Father, just in case. It's not like you could spoil a ton, but you can, I guess. Dad got me a tiny bit at the end when he says it was never supposed to be like this. I was always supposed to go first. Got some goosebumps from that scene. Such an incredible performance, especially in the final act from Gene and Melvin. It's not bad. The final act was excellent, but man, it's a slog to get through. It's slow, and the way it plays out is exactly like a play. Not really my style, but like I said, the
Mhm.
performances were excellent. I had to kind of simmer for a bit on this one. On one hand, I wasn't the world's biggest fan. I prefer not to watch a play on the big screen. If I want to watch a stage play, I will. But as it stands, this movie had some great moments. I was literally broken up into different parts of just dialogue heavy scenes. That's literally what it is. But I thought it was pretty decent enough to give it a passing grade. The performances put it over average for me. So I gave it a 3 stars mainly because of how good the performances were.
Yeah, that's the main thing that sucks me into this movie too. I did want to try. I didn't want to go in with any of these movies telling you anything about them. That was my main thing. I didn't want to let you know which ones were slow burns, which ones were not. I didn't want to give you any type of idea about any of them. I saw this movie a long time ago, and the last 15 minutes of this movie are what burned in my head for years and years to come. The monologue that Gene gives at the end of the movie, the last, what, like 2, 3 minutes, while the dad's laying there in the bed and they're just having their back and forth. And then what is said after, um, it was incredible. Um, just watching it from beginning to end. And yeah, it's a slow watch, but that last, to me anyway, that last 15 minutes ties it all together and makes it worth that long wait. The monologue itself is incredible, but they're back and forth in the, while he's laying in the bed and you're seeing him finally grow those, get those balls. Like, it was incredible. And I was like, I want him to watch this movie because I want him to see this particular father and son dynamic. Um, Whenever I bring this movie up, no one's ever seen it.
Mm-mm.
I only happened to see it because it was on a TV special one day for, I don't even know what for. But it was on an AMC night on TV, and I ended up watching it with my mom and my dad, and I believe it was my brother. I was younger. This movie is pretty old.
This was one
Um,
I could not find for the life of me, so I had to rent it on Amazon Prime. I could
yeah,
pretty much find anything I want, but occasionally I have a hard time finding one, and this was one I rented it.
yeah. I
But
own it on TV.
the very ending when he gives the voiceover at the end, the last like 30 seconds of the movie, really kind of hit me though. Like the
Yeah,
last
it
45 seconds of
says
him talking.
it says death ends a life, but it doesn't end a relationship. When I hear the word father, it matters. Like, fuck. Like when you watch the movie and you see their dynamic, him finally saying that was like, just rip it out. Just rip it out and throw it across the room. Like, it broke me. And it's like, just the way he just, and like, I don't follow Gene Hackman. Like, I'm not like the biggest Gene Hackman follower. Like, I've seen some of his performances and stuff, but this one is probably my favorite just because of how emotional he was and how he portrayed himself in this movie. It really made me wonder if he had a bad relationship with his own father and if he was using that as inspiration for this movie, because you really felt that. Like, you felt that disconnect, you felt that awkwardness, you felt that I want to love you and I want you to love me, but I don't know why we don't have that. Like, you really felt it throughout the movie in just different ways. And then when they're finally talking to each other at the end, you really see that the dad had his own problems with his dad, and it was reflecting on how he parented his son, and it was a trickle effect. And so to finally see that all lay out, I was just like, wow, like, this is messed up. Like, and then to have him say, when his dad finally passed away, it's like, death ends a life, but it doesn't end the relationship. He's always going to be my dad. Whether he loved me, whether I loved him, he was still my dad. Like, that was crazy. That was crazy to me. And I'm glad that I got to watch that with my dad, even though, him and I also didn't have the greatest relationship. But the last, I usually say the last 15 minutes, because that whole end scene is pretty much worth it.
I agree. It's the last 15-20 minutes for the movie.
15-20 minutes.
It's a 2. It's a 2 or 2.5 for me until the last 15-20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's what brings it up to a 3. And I mean, this barely got a 3-star though, because it's slow.
3 is a 3. Okay.
It's a passing grade. It is. You got there.
That's like people that were like, "Oh, a D+ isn't a good thing." It's passing.
It took 8 movies to get there, but we're there. So everything from here on up. I mean, you still haven't gotten to 4. We'll see if you get there, but
we'll see.
Yeah. Do you want to catch up with the chat?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that here.
Has anyone seen this movie? It's something I want to ask.
I only had 1 rating on Letterboxd. This comment had me cracking up though. Scream7, who I don't know who this is, says, "Hello, Sydney. It's an honor. What's your favorite scary movie?" It's an honor. Del says, "Never heard of this one." Jeff says, "Caveman." That's a good one. Derek Hose Corner 2013 says, "Hi there." Not sure who that is. That's Derek's new channel. Bob, I bought the way back on Blu-ray. It arrives tomorrow. Nice. The one with Ben Affleck. She saw that last week and loved it. So, she watched it, but it was for our stream. Sydney says, on Elm Street, Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 2 and 3, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween. Oh, okay. That's why.
That's another one that gets a lot of hate, is the original Texas Chainsaw.
It does. It does. I feel like it's really good, not appreciated enough. And that's what bothers me sometimes about Halloween, is that people seem to forget about all the slashers that came before it. Once again, people are going to say Texas Chainsaw
Massacre inspired that one. It's
some
like,
are going to say Texas Chainsaw Massacre is not a slasher. Okay, but it came before Halloween regardless. And so did The Hills Have Eyes. And so did Alice, Sweet Alice. And I think that movie's sweet ass, but not. I hated that movie, and I don't like the Black Christmas either, the original, but it also came before Halloween. So, hello, Derek. We got Corey in the chat. Hey, all. Speaking of Corey, he's going to be on next week. I've got still 8 movies left to watch from his list, but he'll be on next week. We've got Jeff in the chat saying, "Hey, Corey," and just a lot of highs. Hi, Jeff and Mom. Hi, Derek. Hey, Del and Johnny. Choose one. Goodfellas, Heat, or Casino?
Oh, Goodfellas. All day, every day.
I
love Goodfellas is top.
I have to rewatch Casino, but I might say Casino. I love what happens to Joe Pesci at the end of that. Oh my goodness. What'd you say? So mean. I just love how
that he got his ass beat with bats.
I just love that they get buried alive. It's fucked up.
Him and the brother, yeah.
And he's got to watch his brother get his ass beat first. Like, oh man, it's just top tier filmmaking. Heat's really good, and so is Casino though. So or Goodfellas. So I just rewatched Goodfellas. I had heard of this movie though, the I Never Sang for My Father, because it was on my list of 70s movies to check out
Ah,
for Tim's 70s stream. So when you put it on there, I was actually really excited about it. It just starts really slow. Nikki is Mama Doe. Hey Corey, wait, Nikki is Mama Doe. Yes, Nikki is that is correct. Yes, that is John Doe Juggalo's mom. Never heard of that film. Texas
I
Chainsaw
agree.
Massacre, definitely a slasher. Thank you. Okay, everything Dell has said tonight is like making Dell go from here to like up here. So because
Dude, that's all stops.
I agree with Dell's takes tonight.
Stops.
A lot of his takes tonight, all of them. I have no problem putting Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the slasher category. I do too. Hey, Laren, heat for me, but not for the Sandra Bullock one. And Joe's favorite movie of all time is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's his number one.
It's like the one that started everything. Like that's.
Yeah.
I'm all about paying respect. You don't have to like it, but at least pay respect, especially if it inspired the movies that you're putting above that. Like, you don't have to like it, but yeah.
Some people like this is where it gets tricky, but some people consider movies like Last House on the Left and I Spit on Your Grave slashers too. They're definitely horror. I don't know if you want to call them slashers, but those also came well before Halloween, and I kind of consider Hills Have Eyes a slasher as well. I mean, I don't know what else you want to call it. No, I don't know. I mean, it's in that slasher realm, I guess. And so you guys could argue that out because, like I said, that's where horror fans can get really brutal, where they start telling you, no, it's not a slasher. No, it's not. It's like the argument of is Silence of the Lambs a horror movie? I mean, it's a horror adjacent, so I don't know. I mean, it doesn't bother me. Psychological, but isn't psychological a horror realm, horror adjacent? It could very well be considered.
Subgenre, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think of psychological sometimes like that. I don't know. I mean, I don't argue over that stuff. I'll let people say what they want. That don't bother me.
Pretty much.
Just now discuss. Oh, wait. Oh, hold on. So, anyways, well, that's going to be my number 2 right here. So we got number 2 is going to be Tombstone, which.
Wow.
But
yeah, I predicted this though. Picking this. Okay, so I am not a westerns girl at all. Mm-hmm. If like we want to talk about different genres and movies not being for people, westerns are not my jam. This is the only western, I guess it's considered a full-blown western, that I absolutely love. I love Tombstone. The performances in this movie are amazing, and if you don't love Val Kilmer in this movie, there's something wrong with you. That's just how I feel. Val Kilmer in this movie is everything. It's a little slow, but I love this movie. So anything that you say about it.
It was Johnny who told me. He said there's a scene you'll cry during, and he's like, because Johnny was like, it got me. I did not cry during the scene that he thought I was going to cry during. I did not even get teary-eyed personally, but I gave this 3.5 stars. So it's a 3.5. You got one left to go to get 4 stars here. It's the we'll see. But anyways, so the one that's number 1 is the one I watched today.
Oh, okay. So you watched that one today. All right. So it's still fresh in your head then.
Yeah. So that one was fresh in my head. So that one took over all these spots. But Tombstone, let's go to it. Okay, I don't have a whole lot written down. Dana Delaney looks real good in this, I wrote. And she's a lot of fun. She's a lot of fun in this. Johnny messaged me and said that he was thinking about the scene that was going to make me tear up and made him tear up. I'm calling you out, Johnny. I wrote, well, it's a spoiler, so I'm going to talk spoilers for Tombstone. So I got to say it because I got to say the name. But I assume Johnny's seen it, so he's in the chat. I assume it was Bill Paxton dying is what he was talking about. But it did not make me tear up. I wrote fucking Kurt Russell just walks right out in the open into the water.
Yeah.
What even happens to Sam Shepard's character? They don't show him die. That's him on the horse that breaks through the glass, right? They never even show him again after that. Okay, they literally explain it in the narration at the end. Haha, literally happens as I was writing this. Because they don't show him again the rest of the movie
Yeah.
after that. I didn't find any of the villains to be very intimidating. They came off as quite the pussies, actually, to me. Um, I gave it a 3.5 because I did enjoy it, but it definitely isn't without its flaws. Not my favorite Western, and I don't think it quite lived up to the hype that I
Mm.
and that probably had a little to do with my thoughts. It was overhyped, but still very good. Could have used a bit more oomph in the first hour, but the last hour or so is really great. So yeah, that's my rating. I mean, I just think it lacks a little something. But it's funny because there's another Western I'll talk about. I mean, I've watched a lot of westerns and some like don't have it. I guess I can do slow. It just depends on the movies. So there was a
Mhm.
needing to be a little bit more something, a little bit more pizzazz in the first hour of this. So like I said, I liked it. I do like westerns, but not until the last couple of years that I started liking westerns. I hated western. I never gave them a shot. It's like seafood. I never really gave it a shot until my ex was like, "You got to start. You got to try this stuff." And then now I'm like not picky when I was younger. So a couple of weeks ago, we were out, and my mom was like, "Wait, you eat this, and you eat this, and you eat this." I was like, everybody was surprised because 5 years ago, if you had met me, I was a pretty picky eater, and now like you put something in front of me and I'll eat it. Just don't put ranch dressing or sour cream on any shit I'm eating, and I'll be fine. Get that shit away from me, nasty ass. Um, I'll throw ranch dressing in somebody's face. Nasty.
You're a monster.
Fucking gross. And don't put sour cream near me or Johnny either. We'll chuck that shit in your face too. Um,
Johnny's favorite thing in the world is sour cream. What are you talking about?
okay.
I
Uh,
can hear him right now, like in my head, just at home, like
oh, Bob, not that scene. I don't know what scene he's talking about then. What scene are you
which
talking?
one?
It was Doc and Wyatt's last game in the hospital.
Oh,
Last.
yeah,
Okay, that's
that's
the.
a sad one. It's
I
so
didn't cry
sweet.
at all in the movie though, Johnny. One of my daughters is addicted to ranch dressing. Nasty, Dell. Okay, Dell, do you like ranch dressing though? Just messing. I gave it a 4. He said 3.5. What? Um, so yeah, I gave this a 3.5. I did like it. In the next movie that I'm going to be discussing, KBU also gave a 4 stars to
I'm
my
so
next.
excited.
So
I'm so
KBU.
glad. I was hoping that was gonna be the one too.
Oh really? I on it. Do you want to dive into number one? Do you have a lot more to say about Tombstone? I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about this
I
one.
don't want to say Tombstone is Tombstone. Like I feel like everybody's seen it.
Western act.
Um, Western, Val Kilmer,
Ellie's
awesome.
Ellie's a big fan of Tombstone. I'm pretty sure she gave it like a 4 or 4.5. I think on my
Mm,
letterbox. There.
yeah,
Pretty sure.
it's good.
A
It's
lot
not
of
my
high
favorite
scores.
Western, but I do hold this one highly. I like this one a lot.
I'm kind of in the minority of a 3.5. I think most reviews are 3.5 or higher. I'll take spoilers off the screen. Yes, I like Ranch. Dell says disappointed in you.
Yes.
That's the only thing tonight that you said that I don't agree with you on. Ranch dressing.
Don't you dare talk down to my Dell.
I hope you got a kick out of that. All right, you want to dive into number one?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
let's do it. So let me take off this. I always have to delete these now discussing so I can get ready for next week and punch in the
This
new.
better kill any speculation that Bob doesn't like older movies. I hope this kills all speculation of that. I
Uh,
really
so number one is going to be Days of Wine and Roses, which is from 1962. I have a lot to say about this one. I'm going to be honest. I gave it 3.5, so you didn't get a 4 on this list.
that's okay.
It's the first time, but things are meant to be. What do they say? Records are meant to be broken, or something like that. So, or record,
I'm the lowest ranker. It's
At least,
okay.
at least you set a new record. So, and this could, okay, I'll get into it. I have a decent amount written down for this one. This could be a 4 on a rewatch. I actually texted Jeff the other day. I rewatched one of his movies. It was The Town That Dreaded Sundown, the remake. I rewatched it and I was like, Jeff, technically you have another 4-star on your list because I rewatched it and I gave it a 4. So I was like, you should have 2 4-stars on yours. So this could be a 4 on a rewatch one day. You know how I said I took Sid and Nancy and Moonstruck off of my Criterion list? I
Yeah.
have this on my Warner Archive list to get, and I was going to buy it, and I didn't get around to buying it yet. Let's just say it stayed on my list. I will be buying this. So it did not get taken off my list. Okay. I wrote, take the peanut brittle and just say thank you. What the
Yeah.
fuck? I mean, take the damn peanut brittle and say thank you. She says, you're forcing me to be rude. No, lady, you're being rude all on your own, I wrote.
Yeah. You're being rude on your own.
Yes, I wrote, women were even doing that bullshit back in the 60s, I guess so. Playing games and making men chase. Then he walks away. She runs after him. I thought you were going to ask me to dinner. Yeah, he was before you said no and laughed at him for buying you a gift. Like, that's the shit that bothers me so much today, and probably why I'm single still, and among other reasons. I'm sure people in the chat are saying, no, that's not the only reason why. Okay, that's fine.
Oh my God.
But I'll tell you, it's fucking women playing games, and I don't do that. Look, if I like somebody, I just tell you I like you, okay? If I find you attractive, I find you attractive. If I'm not interested, I'm not interested. But I don't know why people have to play games. You know, like, oh, you got to wait 3 days to text her. Like, no, fuck that. If I want to text her, I'm texting her. If I want to call her, and I'm also probably calling because I'm a phone call kind of person. I don't like texting. Take that texting and shove it up your ass. So you know, when it comes to that shit, it just bothers me. I'm like, no, like, why do we have to play games? Why do men have to chase? Like, if he likes you, he likes you. Well, if you like him, why are you making him chase you? I just don't agree with that shit. It's stupid. Like, I can't believe I saw this and I was like, this shit was happening in the 60s too. I was just kind of clicked in my mind. I was like, I thought that shit was with these younger girls today. I was like, nope, I guess it happened back in the 60s too. They played games like that. I don't like that. I'm not into games. Like, don't play games.
She was an older woman in that movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't some young girl, like high school girl.
I'm just not interested. And this is the one that I think Nikki would really like. I just really feel like after my conversation with her, this is a Nikki type of movie. I could be wrong though.
She's probably seen it.
She might have. I'm gonna put up the now discussing Days of Wine and Roses. I know she's in the chat somewhere right there. So, all right, let's see here. I'm gonna get to where I need to be. Okay, so, Sydney Eubank says he loves ranch dressing. Wingstep has excellent ranch. Gross.
Dude, they have the best ranch.
Man,
it's the best ranch.
About ranch. I'm gonna shove ranch up Laren's ass in a minute. All right. Watching them go from social drinker to full-blown alcoholics. So this is another one where it's a pretty slow burn to start. And I'll get into that. I can relate to those moments of rationalizing and making excuses like, oh, just one little sip. I can, I think any addict has been there where they rationalize the addiction. Oh, I can just have one more, whatever. Respect for the time this came out and how they handled it. A lot of movies wouldn't have happened if it weren't for this. Okay. Oh, this was such a good line. I wrote a quote. I refuse to get up and say I'm an alcoholic because I'm not one. I was like, oh man. And she just said some other stuff in that scene. It's such a good scene, such a powerful scene. The first time getting up there is really tough. I'd say for me, it was bringing myself to step in there because he says, well, I think I wrote that. I think, yeah, because he, I don't know if I wrote, but he says, getting up there and saying I'm like coming to the meeting's not the hard part. He goes, I don't mind talking about my past and my history, he says. And that's how I am. Like, I can talk about my life and stories and things I've been through and done in live streams and all that stuff. That's not the problem for me. But I think in a way, getting up there and just looking almost like the first time you go feeling embarrassed or like questioning what you're doing here. So I really like that they really touch on Alcohol Anonymous. I've never been to AA. I always did Celebrate Recovery, which is similar, just at a church instead. But I like that they kind of, show AA in this movie. Let's see here. Yeah, so I wrote the first, like he said in the movie, I don't mind talking about my life or experiences, but to get up there and do it in front of people you've never met, to admit you have a problem, that can be really tough. I think that's sometimes for me, is to get to that point where you admit it. I wrote crazy how he was the one who got her hooked on alcohol and she's the one who struggles to get help in the end of the movie.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how much fun. I love this quote. It's like one of my favorite quotes. You'd be surprised how much fun you can have when you're sober once you get the hang of it. Fucking, that's it. It's like, streams over. Like that quote is so good. As somebody who struggled with it and his friends with that do struggle with alcoholism, this movie's really good. And like I said, this is one of those where the more I talk about it, gets closer to a 4. And on a rewatch, it could, because now I have that mindset going in. I know that the first hour is slow, so I go into it knowing that it could help next time. Because this is a really good movie, and that's why I was like, people need like that stigma of, oh, you don't like old movies. It's like, no, you got to find the right ones for me, because Nikki recommended one from 1950s that really worked for me, and then there's been some that are duds. It hit or miss. So yeah, I love that quote though, because I think some people don't realize that you can have fun. My dad and I'll share a story. As you know, you appreciate my dad and his humor and all that stuff. He's a dancer like me, and I remember we were at a wedding, and this was after my parents worked for us. But somebody went up to my mom and was like, "Holy cow, those two guys are loaded!" And my mom's like, "Those two guys haven't had a drink."
Yeah.
Like, that's who they are. Like, me and my dad are the first ones on the dance floor. He's a way better dancer than I am. I'm white. I can't dance. But and then but my dad, he's a decent white dancer. But yeah, it's just funny because we don't drink, and that's how I am. So I've always been that way. Okay, let's see here. Oh my goodness, I lost my spot. Okay, yeah. So you'd be surprised by how much fun you can have, and that's the thing. Like, it took me a decent amount of time to realize I can be the life of the party, so to speak, without having a drink. I don't need to have a drink in me, and it took me a little bit of time to realize that. And I like myself better when I don't drink. 2 incredible performances. Jack Lemmon hit it out of the park. Tough to watch though. Jack Lemmon admitted later on he was an alcoholic himself and struggling with alcohol when he filmed this. And Blake Edwards also came out and said that he and Jack were both heavy drinkers at the time of this movie. And Blake said he got sober a year after this movie. And I know that Jack Lemmon did as well. I think it's an incredibly well-made film. This is a lot I wrote right here, so just bear with me. It's like a whole.
No, you're good.
I think it's an incredibly well-made film. I think it's perfectly acted, excellent score, and some really good camera work that suits each scene very well. But it starts off pretty slow for me. Didn't really grip me from the jump. I think where this film is at its very best and strongest is the last 30 to 45 minutes for me personally, because once again, really gets into the recovery aspect of it and some really tough scenes to watch. And that's my cup of tea when it comes to addiction films. Tough scenes to watch dialogue-wise in watching them go through it versus a movie like Heaven Knows What. Because I guess that's a tough watch. I get it, but it's a tough watch in a different way. This is a tough watch and, way different than Heaven Knows What, which is why this is 1 and that's number 10, both addiction films, but it's different. This is dialogue between a husband and wife struggling with addiction. I love that. Give me all that every day. When people are recommending addiction movies, now people should really have an idea of what I like, but I've seen a lot of them, but there's still some I haven't seen. But you have an idea.
It's hard to pick with you, like, because you have seen so many of them. That's why when I picked these 2, I was like, this is like bottom of the barrel. Like, I'm literally searching at this point for something for him that he may or may not like. And but when this one, I was surprised that you had never seen, because when it comes to like addiction movies, a lot of the times, this is the first one that I hear about.
When you recommended this one, it was on my list of addiction films too. So it was funny. I was like, I was going to add it, and I was like, oh, it's already on there. I also think a part of it for me is being spoiled with movies today. They touch on the same or similar subject matter, and it's just updated. But I appreciate this movie. It set the tone for everything that followed it, and you don't have a lot of what we have today without this film. It's a great film, a lot to appreciate here, and I think it can grow on me with a rewatch. I had it on my Warner Archive list of films to grab, and unlike a few of the other Criterion titles, this one stayed on my list, and I will be buying it. It's something I'd love to show my dad, but he would fall asleep for sure. Too old and slow for him now, but he would like it. And so I called him actually after I watched this on my way. I was working, and he was like, no, I've never seen it, but he couldn't talk. He's like, I'll call you tomorrow, which probably means we won't talk for a month. But so he'll forget. We do that. We'll go
Yeah.
days with that. That's how I am with everybody, though. Like even you, Mizzy, is the same thing with Tony. I mean, that's who I am. I go months without talking to people, and I could go 6 days in a row where we talk every day. I mean, it's just how I am. But I would like to show him this. I just think he always. So it's funny, okay, because I wrote this, but it's funny because he likes the newer stuff more than I do now. He always wants to watch something new and fast paced. Like, give me something
Mm-hmm.
with violence and maybe good looking women. He'll always say, which I
Yeah.
understand that part of it.
Giving
But,
violence and boobs.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And oftentimes I'm up for the stuff from his generation in the 80s. So sometimes I want to put something on from the 80s or 70s, and he's like, nah, it's a little old and it's just kind of,
He's like,
yeah, and I'm just like, and so it's funny how we switched the way we
little
think,
bit.
and he's like there and I'm here, but yeah, this worked for me a lot. It's slow, and I think I wasn't quite engaged until the last 45 minutes or so when you really start to get into the meat potatoes of the addiction.
Yeah.
I think now that I've seen it, I think some movies where you go, okay, a rewatch would really suit me, and then some movies you're just like, I don't need a rewatch. It's not going to
Yeah.
change my opinion. There's a lot of movies out there where like Heaven Knows What, Moonstruck. I'm just like, it wasn't my thing. A rewatch ain't going to help it. Like I did a rewatch for Black Christmas because I was like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. I got to rewatch this movie. I did. It went from a 1 star to a 1.5. I do not like Black Christmas. I gave it a chance to rewatch it. Really paid attention. I just could not get into it. This is one of those where I think a rewatch would really benefit me in 6 months or 8 months from now, maybe showing a friend of mine. I feel like this is a movie I would really like to introduce Mizzy to because I make him suffer through movies like this all the time. So I feel like this is something I would show him, and then he would be like, "Man, that was boring." But I would probably
Going in that first hour, but I think after that, when it really starts to get into it, maybe he'll be like, it was slow, but I appreciate it for what it is. Like,
because this worked like that last, and I mean, there's minor. I can't talk about the ending without spoilers because I do want to dive into the end really quick because there's a bit to discuss here. So I am going to talk spoilers on 1962's Days of Wine and Roses. There is a 1958 version of this movie as well.
there is.
And then there's a movie, I believe, that Billy Wilder directed in 1945 or something about addiction. But outside of that, like this is the very first addiction films out there. And the way this touches on like a husband and wife, and also there's a kid involved, as you see as the film goes on, especially towards the end. But what I liked about it is that you don't get that happy ending like you talk about necessarily. Like it's pretty sad. She doesn't get the help at the end, and she kind of walks away. She says, "I'm not interested in getting help," and she never at any point, and he says it in the movie, never at any point does she admit that she's an alcoholic.
No.
She refuses to say it, and he's like, that's when he says at the end, I'm a year and you notice how this movie and I Never Sang for My Father have very similar endings with like a 20-minute powerful dialogue moment, heavy dialogue with just two characters that just good acting. You just let them do work, right? You just say, here's a script and you just go and do your thing. Like she's really good in this too. She gives a great performance. I don't know who she is, but she's excellent. And it's really sad because you're watching this and you're just like, fuck, she's just refuses to get the help that she needs. And
Mhm.
she just doesn't come around, and she ends up leaving. And then the daughter wakes up and he's just like, is mommy, oh my god, that's a tough scene, is mommy gonna ever, is she gonna get the help? Like, and she's like, he says, like I did, I mean I got better. And he's like, hopefully. He can't say she'll come back for sure. You can't lie to her because he doesn't know if she will. And
Yeah.
he tells his daughter, like, I hope so. I hope she gets the help that like I did. I got better. And oh man, I almost get a little teary eyed talking about it. But yeah, that movie worked for me on a lot of levels. I love these conversations, like just being able to dive deep, like Nikki and I had last week quite a few times, and just being able to hear people's stories, like you talking about SLC Punk for a while and stuff like that. That's what these streams are about. Not so much like it's fun to watch a movie like the Tombstone, but I don't have a world breaking story to tell about that one. I can't dive deep into history of
Yeah.
alcohol abuse or something. Alcohol ran in my family between me and my dad, so I always have a lot to touch on. And I've recommended more addiction films to come with people, and I'm sure they will to me. And people are like, man, it's just but every time I feel like I have a different story to tell. The movie might hit me in a different way. I might have a different way that I related to this one versus that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this was actually the first one I put on when I did the modified list. I was like, he hasn't seen this. He has to see it. Like the John Lemon performance. There are a few scenes in this movie where you really get, even if you're not an alcoholic, you really get the desperation. You really get the feeling of I need this now. Like the scene where he breaks into the liquor store. He's so desperate for just I think he says, I just need a sip. He didn't need a bottle. He didn't need any of that. He said, I need just one more sip. Look at the
That's
lengths.
after a relapse with her.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
sober until that night.
yeah. Look at the lengths that he went to get the one sip. Another one is the scene in the greenhouse where he has a set. He's like 542, 542, and he's looking for this bottle that he has hidden in the greenhouse. He tears it apart, and then he's just on the floor, just in tears because he can't find this bottle. And when he finally finds it, he's holding it like a baby bottle with two hands on the floor. And you're just like, I've never had that feeling. I've never been addicted to anything like alcohol or anything like that, but I've watched somebody be that way. And it's like nothing matters. All that matters is where you're going to get that next sip, where you're going to get that next bottle. And then to watch the interaction when he becomes sober and he goes back to the apartment and the wife is there and she's drinking and she's literally talking shit to him about like saying that he's less of a man and that what did these AA people do to you? You have no backbone. You can't even have a drink with your wife. Like, how do you react to the love of your life who's sitting there doing something that you're trying to save yourself from, but you're also trying to save that relationship with them? And the only way to do that is through the thing that you're trying to separate yourself from. Like, and then he finally sits there and gives in and takes a drink, and then it starts the whole thing all over again.
You know the
And it
scene where you're talking about talking to your wife's telling you like you don't you I've recently watched When a Man Loves a Woman
oh,
with
okay.
Meg Ryan, based on, I believe it was Nikki and Joe and multiple other people in the chat really recommended it to me. And it wasn't on anyone's watch list. I just really wanted to watch it. I gave it 3.5, just like this. And there's a scene where Meg Ryan's telling him, like, or she's talking to her friend, like, he doesn't get it. And I was having a conversation with Joe recently on the phone about this. We were talking about it. This is why I love this, having conversations like this, because we're on the phone. We're not talking. We're talking about a movie, but we're talking about real life situations. We're talking about the way a husband and wife, he's trying to help her, but he doesn't know how to. And she feels like he's trying to control her because she's back and he's like walking on eggshells around her and she doesn't understand. I felt like the dynamic of Meg Ryan and Andy Garcia on that was somewhat similar in ways to this, and I liked both movies very much.
Yeah, it's this one is, to me, is very realistic, especially knowing the back story of some of the characters who were literally going through this while they were filming this movie. It made it very authentic to me, and going in and watching it, and reading reviews from people from the past, and that's something that everybody points out, and it's something I really appreciate about this movie is that it's not overly done. It's not, you're not getting a bunch of cheese behind it. It feels authentic, it feels real, and it doesn't really shy away from any type of experience. So like when he was breaking into the liquor store, like I felt that desperation, like that frenzy that he was in, like I need to get this, I'm so sorry, I hope you understand, while he's stealing this liquor, he's literally stealing. And then just the utter embarrassment, like when the shop owner is pouring it on him, like, oh, all you wanted was another drink, and he's literally there trying to get every drop in his mouth, like he's picking the liquor over air. And it's like, just like you felt so much for this character, like you just watched him just go through the ringer basically, but he came out full circle at the end. And it's just, yeah, he came out full circle, but he had to watch the love of his life basically be like, I don't like who I am when I don't drink, I don't need help, you needed help. And it turned into a literal like gaslighting situation. And just to see how that worked out really sets this movie apart for me. And when people are like, oh, it's an older movie, like a lot of people don't give it a chance, but I always pick this version over the other. To me, this version is way more impactful. I've seen the very first one, the original, and it doesn't even hit anywhere as close as this one does. And it's because of the performances. Performances alone for me I've given this movie 4 stars. It's a 4-star for me.
And like I said, on a rewatch, I really do think it could be. Even I saw KB in the chat, like it's a 4. Come on, Bob. The closing shot of this too, that just what really made me think about this movie is he lives right next to a bar. It says bar, and the closing shot ends with like zooms in on his face, and the reflection is just saying bar, and that's how the movie ends, and it just says the end, and it's over. But yeah, I really do need to rewatch this. I think that there's a lot to break down on this one as well, and I think it's a higher than it, probably a 3.5. I think this is a really well made movie, and even if you don't like it, there's a lot to appreciate, understanding that, like you said, I mean, you were kind of saying it, and we were talking about how like people need to remember that there's a lot that came before Halloween that might have inspired that. Like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Psycho, things like that, Peeping Tom. And it's important to remember, especially for me loving addiction movies, this movie came before a lot. In the 60s, alcohol was not very big on the screen. And in this movie touches, I mean, to in 1962 to talk about Alcohol Anonymous, I feel like that I didn't know that was going to come up. I felt like that was very surprising and very, I don't know, unique that they did that. And I thought this movie had a lot of balls, and I thought it touched on it really well, and I thought it was accurate and very well acted.
It was. And I feel like it kind of gets looked over a lot, and it kind of gets forgotten a little bit, just because I don't know if you'll agree with me or not, but a lot of the addiction movies nowadays are more in your face and a little bit more like extreme, pretty much showing everything. And because this was the 60s, they're not going to show all that kind of stuff, But I love that they went there with this movie. Like, I was reading somebody saying, when this movie came out, they were younger. They were like 15, 16 years old, and they remember seeing it on TV. And they were like, it was considered taboo because you were just seeing something that was pretty censored back then. Like people pretty much steered away from even talking about it. And it's like you said, they were fully talking about Alcoholics Anonymous, and that was unheard of back then, let alone seeing somebody even like talk about weed or, shooting heroin or something like that. They weren't doing that on TV back then. So when this got released, it was considered like a taboo movie. Like, oh, did you see this? The woman is the alcoholic. Like it was a thing.
So you asked, do I agree with you on that it's in your face? I don't disagree with you. I think you're correct, and I think that's what I actually like about addiction movies is that it is so in my face. because I feel like I'm one who wants it to be in my face. Like I as somebody who struggles with addiction, I don't want it sugar coated. I want the ugly truth of it, and I want it to be completely all there, and I don't want it sugar coated. And I am fine with it being in my face if it's done right. And that's why as long as there's not even that there needs to be redemption, because there's not even in this movie, but there needs to be, like, I don't know, fight. I just don't want to watch an hour and a half of a movie of people shooting heroin. And I felt like I say that every week now. I feel like I've been saying that, and people might be getting pissed at this point, but I feel like that was exactly what Trainspotting and Heaven Knows What are. It's just people shooting and doing drugs, and I'm just like, I'm not into that. Like I'm not. Like I want to watch somebody struggle through it, not just like, and I know that is a struggle. I get it, okay, but there's a difference between watching somebody like in this movie, even though there's no redemption, watching her struggle through it. I'm not just watching her just shoot heroin or drink the whole movie. Like there's emotion, there's important dialogue. I don't feel like I get that out of the other movies, and others might. There's a lot of Trainspotting fans. I'm not one of them. So yeah. I mean, that's
like my favorite addiction movie of all time is Basketball Diaries. When I put Basketball Diaries and this movie in the same league, no. But do they give me the same feeling? Yes. They're years apart and they deal with two totally different addictions, but the feeling is still there. That desperation, the fear, all of it, it's all still there, even though they're two completely different movies made in two completely different times, dealing with two completely different addictions. If it's well done and the feeling is there, and you can feel the anxiety and the fear and the anxiousness of the addicted person in the movie, then they did it right. And I feel like in this movie, even though it was made so many years ago, it just hit right. It just hit right, and it got the point across that it was supposed to get across. And it was one of those movies that you didn't get the happy ending that you really wanted. I mean, he got his ending, but it's like you said, that last shot where you see the bar sign in his reflection, that's telling you he's going to have to live with this his entire life. Like, it's a day-to-day thing where you're going to choose. You're going to have to make a decision. Am I going to stay sober, or am I going to go to that bar? And he lives right there. He can't escape it. And so it's just such a great movie. And I wish more people saw it, but it's like, I believe we were talking about it in the chat one day about, black and white movies and older movies, and Tim made a really great point. Is, a lot of people, especially younger people now, they see a black and white movie and they just instantly lose interest or don't want to see it because they just feel like it's boring. Well, some people would call this movie boring as well, maybe in that first hour, but once you get to the actual meaning of the movie, then it really hits you. And so I wish more people gave this movie a chance, because I feel like a lot more people would relate to it. So that's why I put it on your list, because it's definitely one, especially for somebody who likes addiction movies and likes, to see people fight for their sobriety or fight against, whatever it is they're addicted to. I felt like this was something that you really needed to see. And I was surprised that you hadn't yet, even though it was already on a list for you. I was surprised you hadn't seen it yet.
Because I got like a addictions list, and it's got like 75 films, and I'm going to see every one of them regardless if I want to or not. Like I'm even going to watch the ones that are related to Trainspotting. But for me, there's one called Filth I need to see, and I guess it's a lot like Trainspotting probably. But so I was talking to Joe about this, and because I kind of said I felt like Trainspotting romanticized the drug addiction almost. Like it made it look, I don't know, it didn't make it look pretty, but it was just all drugs in the movie. And and I know somebody had disagreed with me, and then Joe said he felt like Basketball Diaries romanticized like addiction a little bit. And I had we had a conversation because I was like, no, I don't feel like it did, because there's recovery in that. Like there's battle. Like he literally goes through the scene where he's like
he's locked in the room, and what's his name? He's outside of it. Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not gonna suck your dick for heroin, or whatever. And he's like, I'm not asking you to do that and stuff. And it's just like, and you see what it does. And I like watching a movie where I can see what the addiction does, but there needs to be repercussions or a struggle or dialogue taking place between two characters where they're realizing they're addicts. And I felt like in a Train Spotting and in the Heaven Knows What, that never really took place, I didn't feel, between characters that have a conversation. And so that's where I kind of talk about the romanticizing of it. And I know that you could disagree with it. I know you talked about when it comes to romanticizing, you felt like the movie It Ends With Us romanticized abuse almost slightly, or because he would, I don't want to spoil that movie for people who haven't seen it, and I can see where you're coming from. And obviously I felt differently. And so I know, even when saying that, people can feel differently about that, and so but this movie, what's important for me in a movie like this is, see, I don't want to watch just I've been there. I don't want to watch people just drink for 2 hours in a movie and there's nothing else going on. I'm good. I'll pass on that. That's why I don't like those movies, like Heaven Knows What, because I'm not interested in just watching people shoot heroin for 2 hours and stressful movie. Pass. No thanks. And so a movie like this, as somebody who's been there with alcoholism and I didn't see my dad go through it, but I seen other people and stuff. This movie does it accurately. And I get really bothered when movies either dumb it down or don't show the accuracy of it. Like the husband and wife relationship and the kid being involved in certain moments of this movie was so well done. And in a movie, some people, you hear this a lot about, people will say what is it? Like if they play guitar or something, they get bothered if the movie's not accurate, right? Or something like that. Or a basketball player, or a baseball coach, or a manager or something might say, this movie was so inaccurate. You know what I mean? And I watched a baseball movie not too long ago, and even I did that. I was like, oh my gosh, there's too many flaws I'm noticing. And it was like a kid's little league game, but I was like, it could have been so much better if it wasn't loaded with all these flaws that I was finding, that most people would be like, are you serious? You're finding these? And it's just like, as somebody who's a big baseball fan or big into addiction films, if it's not done right, it can bother you.
Yeah.
And so if it doesn't pay justice to it or do it accurately or do it with love, I guess, you can feel like, oh, I could have done this better, so to speak. I know that's tough to say, that could piss people off, but it's like, some things can bother you. And so, I'm going to catch up with the chat here. Let me see here. Take this amount of spoilers off. Comments. Okay, so I saw one. Sydney Eubanks was asking your thoughts on Seven.
Top 10 movie for me.
Okay, big fan of it. What's up, party people? Chef Jim says. We got Holland saying chef. Chef, good evening. What's up, Chef Jim Powers? Laren the Legend and Holland the Troublemaker. Holland is a troublemaker. That's me. KB and Mizzy are in the house too. Wow, we got all the stars tonight. They don't all do that, Bob. I don't even know where we're at with that one. We get so carried away with the. Sometimes I can stay away.
I know we got into the combo. We got lost.
Admitted before, Bob. See, there's that I saw. And Bob forgetting his dad is white. He's a decent dancer for a white guy.
It's so funny. I was like, so is your dad.
He's like, he's one of the few white people that can dance somewhat. Like for a white guy, he's a decent dancer. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I always say this: stereotypes exist for a reason, and most white people aren't great dancers. There's some good white dancers, but not usually. I can dance like a bastard if the right song is on. Chef Jim says Caprice Prisoners 2013. Your thoughts? I like that one.
I haven't seen it, I don't think.
Okay. When a Man Loves a Woman was a tougher watch for me, KB says. Yeah, that's a tough watch. The like I said, in that one, for me, what hits is my husband doesn't get it. And he's trying to help her, but he doesn't realize that it's a really interesting dynamic, the dialogue and stuff, what takes place between Andy Garcia and Meg Ryan in that one. Still need to see this one. Calling it a night. Take care, everyone. Good night, Dell. If he's probably gone by now, but night, Dell. Requiem for a Dream. Your thoughts? I hate that movie. So I mean,
He doesn't like that movie. I appreciate that movie. It's one of those movies that I don't like go back and rewatch, but I feel like it's a really powerful movie. Haven't seen it in a while, but I personally like it. It's just hard. It's just hard to get through. Especially having lived with somebody with addiction problems. It's just a hard one for me to get through, but I do like it.
mhm. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go ahead. Well, you give me your what you thought my list would be. Number 10 to 1.
So I thought that I knew that Heaven Knows What would be 10. I actually had American Me at 9.
Okay.
I didn't think that you were gonna like it.
That's fair.
I had Sid and Nancy at 8.
Okay.
I had SLC Punk at 7. I had Moonstruck at 6. I had Jacob's Ladder at 5. I had Creature from the Black Lagoon at 4. I had Tombstone at 3. I had Days of Wine and Roses at 2, and I had I Never Sang for My Father at 1.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense though, because I was a big father son guy. All right. My prediction for you was gonna be number 10 was I Never Sang for My Father.
You're right.
9 Days of Wine and Roses. 8 Heaven Knows What. 7 Jacob's Ladder. 6 Moonstruck. 5 American Me. 4 Sid and Nancy. 3 Tombstone. 2 Creature from the Black Lagoon, and 1 SLC Punk. What was your list?
Okay, so mine was 10 was Heaven Knows Why.
Okay.
8 for me
9.
was
9.
9 for me was I Never Sang for My Father. 8 for me was American Me. 7 is Sid and Nancy. 6 is Tombstone. 5 was Jacob Ladder. 4 was Day of Wine and Roses. 3 was Moonstruck. 2 was Creature from the Black Lagoon, and 1 was SLC Punk.
I knew those two. They're both in your top 5 of all time. It's funny you start to get people to know people's like top 5s and stuff. Like I almost know Tim's entire top 10. I know Joe's like a lot of his top 20 favorite films of all time. I think people, you just get to know people. Like I posted a picture of my shelf the other day, and I feel like you could get to know people just by the way they organize their collection. You get a feel for what they like. You could find all my little sports knickknacks and stuff. Know I'm a sports fan in between there and stuff. So, okay, let's see what else we got here. All right, would I recommend this list? I've never said no.
You want to?
If you like, if as long as I like one movie, I would. Ashley was the first time I heard somebody say basically I would recommend some. That's how I feel about this one. Yeah, I would still recommend it. I would seriously fucking hate number 10, but everybody will probably watch it now. Yeah, I would recommend it mainly because there are people that are going to like these movies, but if you are more my taste, if you fall in line with me, like I don't know how people would feel. Like I know Mizzy's taste really well. He would not like Sid and Nancy or Moonstruck, not his cup of tea. You know what I mean? Like Mizzy and I fall pretty close together. Joe and I are similar on a lot. Adam and I have a lot of similar taste. Tim and I have very different taste. You know what I mean? I feel like in some aspects, the more I get to know Nikki, I feel like her and I have a lot of similar taste as well. But it's cool to see, like, I feel like Adam and Tim have a lot of the same taste as far as like the classics go, but not when Derek likes his shitty or B horror movies that Tim's not into. But I feel like there's,
our shitty B movies, okay?
I feel like a lot of people really have, in the community, so to speak, I feel like everybody has that person they could probably say, I resonate with this person the most. And honestly, if I had to pick somebody, it's probably Mizzy, especially when it comes to horror for the most part. So, but he can be very judgmental too when it comes to me recommending, or when it comes to me giving some high stars. He's like, that's not a 5. I'm like, well, it is in my eyes. Would I buy these? I would buy Days of Wine and Roses. I own Tombstone. I own Creature from Black Lagoon, and I own American Meat. So I already own, and I own SLC Punk, and I own Jacob's Ladder. I own it.
Like
Um,
most
I wouldn't buy Moonstruck, Sid and Nancy, or Heaven Knows What. Those are the three I wouldn't buy. Everything else, yeah, I either already own or I would buy it. So, and then what would I rate this list? This is something I didn't go over yet. Give me a minute to think about this one here.
like you've already done it, so let's say it.
Honestly, I'm gonna give this list. I'm gonna give it a 2.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a 2 because of how much I hated Heaven Knows What.
You can't let one movie
One
destroy the whole
one
list.
movie. It brings this list from a 2.5 because, like, I've talked about how where I'm like this list averages out to a 3 or something, but I'm like I'm giving it a 3.5 because of how much my number 1 I liked. So because of how much I hated number 10 on this list, it's got to go down to like a 2. I'm honestly I would love to do the math in my head here. I'm like to see how many stars what it would actually be at because I'm going to do it here really quick. Okay, so 7, that would be 10, 12.5, 15, 17, 19, 20.5, 21.5, and 22. So you got to think that's 22 stars total. That's all. That's closer to a 2-star, you know. Yeah, I mean that's a 2.27. So I got to go 2 stars. I'm sorry, Caprice.
It's okay.
It's my opinion. Look, at the end of the day, this is this is opinions. You know what I mean? Like these are people's taste in movies. I mean, somebody else might say these all 10 worked for them in their 5-star films. So everybody's different. Yeah, I'm gonna watch number 10 tomorrow. I hope Holland does too.
No,
Please,
Holland.
Caprice is in the group chat, so post it in the group chat what you thought of number 10, Holland. It's called Heaven Knows What. If you don't
I
remember.
mean, if me and Bob both ranked it at our number 10, do you really want to watch it though? Like,
You might like it though. I feel like most people when I recommend when I give something a 10 or ranked number 10, people they want to watch it right away. They're more probably the shitty part is Caprice, and you would also agree with me on this though. You would rather people watch Days of Wine and Roses. Everybody will want to watch Heaven Knows What because of this stream.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes.
How about that, Holland? How about you do a double feature, Holland, and you just let me know which one you like better?
Yeah, Heaven Knows What. And do you really want to watch it though? Heaven Knows What and let's see, Heaven Knows What and Days of Wine and Roses. Holland, that's your homework tomorrow. Me and Caprice will be checking in because we'll be expecting it in the group chat all day long.
I'm gonna be making periodic visits.
With Laren, he's gonna do it with Laren. Yeah, Laren, where you at? Anthony says I thought Draculina's list was pretty well rounded altogether, but just not a good list for Bob overall, and that's exactly it. I remember telling Mizzy, I was like, Mizzy's like, "Are you gonna be that mean?" I was like, "I'm gonna tell Caprice, look, maybe recommending movies to me just." You don't know my taste. I was like, I feel like Caprice knows my taste too.
So everybody just know this. So I told Bob in the beginning of this, I said my list is not gonna be one based off of your taste. I told him I want to give you movies that I know that you are not gonna just pull off the shelf on a whim on your own. So it really wasn't one of those things where I was like, oh, he's going to like this. He's going to like that. No, I wanted to take him away from his sad drama movies and give him something that he would never pick on his own and to see if he would maybe like something that was out of his comfort zone. I didn't pick any of these movies saying, oh, he's going to like this. He's going to like this. Bob might like this. I know Bob's taste. I know it very well. I wasn't going to give him that comfort here. And it's obvious that it didn't work. He didn't like most of my movies, but that's fine because he watched something he normally wouldn't watch on his own. And that was the list.
Probably wouldn't have been pulling. It's cool because I got I mean, it's funny because you said like you wouldn't be pulling stuff off the shelf, and the funny thing is, I had some of these on the shelf. You know,
You hadn't
Tombstone
watched.
probably out of all these movies, Tombstone, I did want to see. I never sang for my father, but outside of Tombstone, like that's the only one I probably would have been pulling off the shelf anytime soon to watch. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So I
um,
took thoughts into consideration, as you can tell by some of the addiction movies. But again, the other ones, I knew he wasn't gonna just be like, oh yeah, it's Saturday. Let me grab Creature from the Black Lagoon, get some popcorn. I'm gonna make some snacks, and I'm gonna watch this black and white Universal horror movie. Like,
yeah. And the last two I watched were Creature from the Black Lagoon and Days of Wine and Roses. So two black and whites. See, that's the
two black.
thing is, I hope people understand like I get like yeah, toot my own horn here, but most people that aren't interested in something, like Ashley said, look, if I'm just not interested, I'm not going to watch it. I watch at least 30 recommendations from people a month, okay, between these
Yeah,
streams. That's a lot
yeah.
of
Every
movies to
time
just
you're watching a recommendation,
that's a
something
lot of movies to put in the hands of somebody else that I did not pick at all. You know what I mean? Like out of this list, there's only three that I would have put on my own, and that's Days of Wine and Roses, Tombstone, and Creature from the Black Lagoon, and also I Never Sang for My Father. And funny enough, those ended up being the top four.
yeah.
But like, you know what I mean? And so sometimes though there are like Sweet Steel Magnolias, which Nikki recommended. I probably wouldn't be watching that, and that was at the top. And when I looked at her
That one
list,
super surprised me. I remember watching in the chat, and I was like, really?
yeah,
Like, I was blown away at that one.
when I looked at the list, that was the one, and she thought I was gonna like it, and she was right because
Mhm.
mainly because I like fried green tomatoes. But when I first looked at her list, I was like, "This is the one I don't want to watch," and then I ended up liking it. So even though, yeah, there's somewhere sometimes I look at something and I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to watch that." I end up really liking it, and that's why you can't judge a book by its cover. You got to give it a chance. I understand why some things you don't want to give a chance to, and don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, most of the time I look at a list and I go, I don't really want to watch that one, that one. The rest I do. I'm
Mhm.
usually right, but there are times where I'm completely flat dead wrong. And I'm just like, holy
Mhm.
shit. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, so it's really fun. And there was one, I mean, there's been so many movies that have been recommended to me that I fell in love with. I mean,
Yeah.
like the one a couple weeks ago that Mizzy recommended, the Things We Lost in the Fire, like,
Yeah.
dude, I mean, so good. And I've had so many good conversations because of these streams and because of recommending movies. Even when I don't like a list, we had good conversations tonight. You know what I mean? And sometimes it creates a big running joke like Barrowbone. And,
Right.
so sometimes it's just, but for me, it's more than just like the movies, it's the conversations I have. And my dad always talks about that with me. It's funny because he was over for a live stream once when the stream ended, he's like, why don't you guys dive deep into the movies? I'm like, that's what we're doing. And I was like, it's funny you say that because I do a series. Well, I haven't done one in over a year, but like I did a series called What It Means to Us, where we discussed the menu, and we did it for 3.5 hours or whatever it was. Like,
I remember that stream, and I that was my first time doing something like that, and I remember everybody had really different opinions on the menu, and I was so hyped. I had just seen it like 3 times, and I still love that movie just as much as I did then. But I love that series. You should bring that back. I mean, I know you're a busy guy and everything, but you should bring that one back
no,
particularly. It's
and
great.
especially with StreamYard now not allowing over 6 guests, I probably will. But as you know, I can't draw for shit and I can't make thumbnails very well. And I know Tim has like the background of the What Did I Just Watch series. Like, so he'd have to
Mm.
send it to me and I'd have to try to figure out how I can just do what he does. He'd have to show me. And I know Tony always helps me out on that as well. So Bob on
Oh,
Caprice's list, like not quite my tempo, like Whiplash, not quite my tempo, not quite my tempo. Have you seen Whiplash?
yeah.
Okay, that's so good. But I was as I was making your list, I was like, is she just gonna hate my list because I like hated on hers? I didn't
Oh,
hate on your list. I was like, I genuinely gave them a watch, and there's it's just they fell where they fell, So, um,
yeah.
but I'm
For me, it wasn't about that anyway. It's like I said, I wanted to give you something that, you know, was out of your comfort zone and was out of your normal taste. And, you know, a lot of, you know, some of these movies on this list mean a lot to me. So I was hoping that, you know, in you watching these movies, maybe you understood me more. And, you know, it's not about, oh, is he going to like it? Is she going to like it? It's about showing something different and possibly opening somebody else up to something they normally wouldn't be up to.
Mm-hmm. No, I get it, and we'll see how my list works for you. I feel like there's some people I know their tastes very well, and I feel like Mizzy, Adam, and Joe are like that for the most part. And I think I have an idea, especially after my last stream with Nikki. But I feel like even though I know your taste, I feel like there's still some blind spots for me when it comes to your taste that I'm like, ooh, could she or could she not? Like, or how high do I want to go with this list, or do I want to put some B horror that you might enjoy, but it's not going to create a fun discussion? You know, it's just going to be like, oh yeah, it was fun. There's cool practical effects, but it's not going to create a deep conversation. You know what I mean? So, but
Well,
we'll
you
see.
know that my tastes go all the way to a Serbian film, all the way to, you know, stealing Harvard. So it really just depends, you
What is
know?
stealing Harvard?
Exactly. So you've never seen Stealing Harvard?
No, I see it right here, 2002. It's Johnny gave it 2 stars. Somebody gave it one. Somebody gave it 1.5.
It's
Uh-oh.
a stupid, it's a
Oh,
stupid comedy
Tom
movie.
Green and Jason Lee. Okay, Leslie Mann's in it though.
It's
Yeah.
pretty. It's actually kind of funny. If that to me, it's funny, but I'd say the same about 2 stars. But
Stealing
if I
Harvard is hilarious, Anthony says.
yeah, I just watched it the other day. It's on Tubi. I've been watching it nonstop. It's so fucking funny. Tom Green just kind of fell off the face of the earth, but he's in that movie and he's hilarious. So
Stealing
funny.
Harvard is not a Bob movie, Jeff
It's
said.
definitely not a Bob movie. That's why
So,
I did not
let-
recommend it to him.
so I've had conversation with people that hate when somebody tells somebody they're not going to like something. Me personally, I love when somebody like a Jeff right now spots it out, because you know what? I'm going to take him at his word, and I'm just not going to bother. And I know some people are
No,
like,
I would
stupid.
never.
That's stupid. You should go watch it. And I'm like, no, you know what? Jeff knows my taste, and I'm not going to waste my time. It'd be an hour and a half that he could tell me I'm not going to like, and then I'm not going to like it. Why am I going to watch it? If I
It's
wanted
not.
to watch it, I will, but I'll take
No,
Jeff's word.
it's not your type. It's not your type of thing.
I have
You
Laren says he has it on Blu-ray.
talk to me again.
Look at that. The stream turned into a stealing Harvard discussion. So
Yeah, you would never talk to me again. You'd be like, Caprice, what the fuck are you doing?
I like the perfect score.
Huh?
I like the perfect score where they steal the exams.
Oh, yeah, that one's fun. This one is different.
Let's watch that after the Wine and Roses and Heaven double feature, Laren.
Holland.
I want
It.
Laren and Holland to watch that tomorrow. Double feature, both of them. They'll just
So
text each
funny.
other while they're watching it. But that's everything tonight. Don't forget, on October 4th, I will be live with Allie and Ashley.
Oh my god.
It's in stream. And
You know, I don't want to say, like, when you told me you were gonna do that, I thought you were literally like just trying to get a reaction out of me. I didn't think you were actually gonna do it. And then I saw the promo for it and I went, he's actually gonna do it.
oh yeah,
I was
no,
like,
I'm trying to go all
even
out. I'm trying to go all out for that stream too. But sometimes people don't get back to you, or they don't end up.
Johnny's favorite stream.
Yeah, I'm trying to get Johnny involved. Oh, we lost Caprice. Oh, she's back. I'm trying to get Johnny involved in some capacity, but he's pretty reluctant. So
He's not gonna do it.
yeah, exactly. So, but anyways, that's everything for tonight. Make sure to tune into next week. Seriously, Corey's going to be joining the channel, and we use pigeon carriers. Okay, nice.
Oh my gosh.
Holland about to have a great day of movie watching. Good night, Dakota baby. Pretty sure it will be. Good night, y'all. Yeah, make sure to tune in next week. Seriously, Corey's going to be on, and Corey's a good dude, so make sure to show some love to him. And I'm looking forward to it. I've only watched 2 of them so far, so I still have 8 to watch. We'll see how I like them. but it'll be fun. So I mean, that's how I am. I got a week to go and I got 8 movies to watch plus other movies to watch. So that's just how it is. So it's like eight recommendations in 1 week I'm doing, not anything I want to watch. So and I'm still
Yeah.
waiting. I've waited 16 years for Laren to give me a list, but he's still waiting. But honestly, it's okay because other people are like, "Hey, I gave you a list 2 years ago, and you still haven't watched it." So I'm like, "Laren, give me a list," but it'll be 6 years anyways.
Right.
Get rested for tomorrow's films. This was great. Stayed up late for this one. Everyone have a delight. We got
I
KB
love you,
saying good night. KB was in here the whole night as well.
baby.
Laren, get rested for tomorrow's films. And that's funny. Yeah. So, okay. Anyways, everyone have a great night. Thanks for being here. Del, KB, Nikki was here, Jeff, Johnny, Laren, Sydney Eubanks. I always forget people. Holland Oates, of course. Anthony, 2 weeks in a
Oh,
row, watching all night, staying up late for it. Like, seriously, it was a 4-hour stream last week and 3.5 this week. Anthony was here for both of them. So I appreciate everyone who watches. If I forgot anybody, Chef Jim Powers, Vinicio was here for a bit. In other words, nothing was here. Dell, I said, Joe was here watching as well. I just want to show some love to everybody, Corey, Laren, so on and so forth, Nikki.
yes. Thank you guys all for
Thank
coming.
you, everyone. So have a good night, everyone.
Bye.